It's live.
I can't believe a whole batty man get support. I can't believe the rasta man not turn pussy one. I can't believe the little take a them get support. I can't believe the high. I can't believe the high. I can't believe so many man get support. I can't believe the rasta man not turn pussy one. I can't believe the little take a them get support. I can't believe the high. I can't believe the high. I can't believe so many man get support. I can't believe the rasta man not turn pussy one. I can't believe the little take a them get support. I can't believe the high.
Hey, can you hear me, Tel?
Yes. I can hear you nice and clear.
What's going on, people? What's going on? Kirk Washington Jr.
Hey, can you hear me, Tel?
Moss.
Yes. I can hear you nice and clear.
What's going on,
your
people? Kirk Washington.
That's better. I don't know why there was that reverb.
Can you hear me now? Is there no reverb, is there?
No.
Yeah, I don't know what was going on there. What's going on, people? Kirk Washington, Melanated Goddess, events, Moses, Wagwan, coming, people. Hit the like button. You know how it is. Welcome to another week of True Talk. Yeah, Mr. Riggs joining me today. It's all about the Black Family Unit. What's the future for it? Is it outdated? Does it need to change? Does it even matter to certain things that we need to achieve in today's modern day society? That's what we're talking about today, people. Come on. The link is in the chat. Let me repost it again just so it's clear. Look, see it there? Professor Kansu Alan.
Yes.
Hold up. Yeah, people, what's good? Where's Professor Kansu? Is he connected?
Let's just go into this dialogue quickly. Get the people in.
Yeah, make them come in.
Yeah, just wait for people to come in. Get your drinks. Get sitting down. Get relaxed, because we're gonna go into one. But we just want to trigger the minds first, and finding out what we're going to actually have this dialogue about. Because as we know, this epidemic that has been going on today, it's been very, very atrocious in different ways. Obstacles that have been taking us off the ball. Like even today, they were even having a conversation. I'll just give you a little snippet. I heard about them saying that, the first people that are going to get the vaccines are the people in the hospital region or any establishment. Secondly, the second other people will be the elderly. The third people will be the people over 50. And then they said this. The next set of people will be the ethnic minority. Imagine that.
Always. We
got to think hard. We got to keep on pushing our mark. We're not going to get recognized. But the first most that we're going to be doing and talking today, you know, as I said, you know, we have to look at 1,000 years, not 500 years that we always keep on talking about. It's 1,000 years and beyond. And it's a psychological trauma for me to understand that we're all going through traumas. But before we can even find our foundations for economics or any form of business or organization, we've got to get that mind right. So where do we have to begin? But as we're waiting for people to come in, please relax, get your drinks, get yourself seated, press the like button, share, donate. You know what it is. You know what time it is. So we're just waiting for people to come in before we can lift off.
Okay. Wait, there's a problem with the link. That's gone out. Hey, you see, with all this Black Lives Matter stuff, Riggs.
Yeah.
Obviously, the focus is on this family unit, and obviously on the website,
Yeah.
you know, there's big stuff written down about this new age family construct. You understand?
Mm-hmm.
Man and gal and foolishness and foolishness.
But you know what I've kind of noticed though is it's funny how they keep on throwing these obstacles to take us off our mind track of what the original gender is. Every time, have you noticed it? That every time we organize or plan something, they throw a spanner in the works.
It always has to be the way, isn't it? Again,
So,
the galvanization of the nation can't work, innit? And it's a basic premise of everything as far as I'm concerned. Obviously, anyone's welcome to come and voice their opinion, but as far as I'm concerned, you can't move forward in any other works without those foundational things in place. And I was saying to someone today, if for you to hold most prominent positions, having a family is necessary, because again, man want to see that you're governing a household. You got a wife, kids, you know what I'm saying, in a particular way for them to even want to talk to you or trust you in any particular way in the job. So how, you know, we think we're going to move forward in a certain way without correcting or repairing that situation, I don't personally understand. But as I said, you know, everybody's welcome to their opinion. Some people in this modern day society may feel like it's not necessary, you know, because there's so many of us that come from one parent families that have come out decent. I'm not even saying you come out mash up. So again, there's this argument now that it can be done. So what's the problem? Let's move on from it. It can't be repaired. It can't be changed. So that's really what I want to hear from the people. You know, what do they think? Do they think it's too far gone? Do they think it's an out-of-date concept? You know what I'm saying?
But but as I will go into the facts of understanding that, you know, a flower cannot grow without its soil, and the soil is your history. Without no history, you have no. So by applying your history into the situation, the second protocol is your health perspective. And if you don't have your health, how can you be sick, right? And then try to say that you're going to be able to run a business, a company, a house, a family, when you haven't dealt with your psychological traumas. So for me, I'm looking at this and I'm wondering, where do we sit into this factor and able to help ourselves to able to galvanize, to able to be successful in the protocol of our works today. We have two big guns gentlemen in the house. We have Professor Consul and Scattered Minds. Please do present yourselves. Scanning Minds.
I'm gonna let the professor go first, of course. But big up and big respects. I'm honored to be here on Black Eyes TV. It's been a minute. I've been supposed to pass through for a while, so I'm happy to get here today.
That's all, brother. Big up for coming.
Yeah, just give us a statement about yourself, Professor Konsu.
Yeah.
Greetings.
Yes, and give us some information about yourself, Konsu.
Yeah, well, greetings. Yeah, I just thought I'd chime in to chop it up.
Yeah.
And yeah, the information's in the Black Eyes TV chat, in the Black Eyes TV archives. Okay, go in the archive and you'll see who I am.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna say the first history. I'm gonna do a quick introduction, but the first of the history. But yeah, I'm Scattered Minds, aka Captain Scarlet. I run a Pan-African politics and pop culture podcast, which has been out of commission for a couple of months. We've taken a little season break, but we come back full time for the month of Messiah in August, definitely. But we might have a couple of shows in between there. So we're just trying, we're just supporting a Black media effort and trying to have a regular conversation, focusing the minds on politics, both the politics here in the UK, but the global Black politics that we really need to focus our mind on. But also widen the discussion out into pop culture as well, because you always have to have some fun and some edutainment into it. But I think with the politics part, it's very important. I think that we do start having conversations and educating the Black family of how the system actually works right now, and what kind of alternate systems our Black thinkers have already proposed, and what kind of things we could also add to that sort of to the thinking, to the intellectual base that's already there from the thinkers like Marcus Garvey, Amos Wilson, and so on and so forth.
Yeah. Scott, I don't know if you was listening to the news like couple days now about even the factor of how the government is treating us in the fact of even this so per se vaccine. And I'm not going to really go into it because this is about the family, but I'm just trying to show people about what we call how we keep on relying and not being self-sufficient, and we keep on relying on the system, and the system keeps on abusing us in many different ways. In the fact of like the vaccine, where I was saying earlier was that they announced that the first people to take in the vaccine are the people within the hospital establishments. Then the next protocol was the elderly. Then the third one was the people over 50. And then they put the spanners in the work. The next protocol is the ethnic minority. What's your prospects on that?
I mean, this is the thing. Vaccine politics is always interesting. I think I'm very wary of vaccinations, but they were always angling for it. I suppose I wonder if you remember during the early days of COVID when it pretty much wasn't touching Africa at all. Like it was really avoiding Africa, and Black people, even Black people in the UK and so on and other places, were not catching it perhaps as easily as others. And then there was had been an onslaught of basically loads of Black people, especially those who work in front line, and those people pretty much who couldn't afford to quarantine in the way other people could, who are still out having to work and so on and so forth, started catching it more. And the more they're sort of pushing this idea that it's Black people and ethnic minorities who are dying from quarantine, it's the more they're going to be able to push that idea that yes, you guys are in need of vaccination and so on. And I think the idea of forced vaccination in a country like the UK and in America is going to be difficult for them to push forced vaccination. So what they need to do is really push this idea or force it onto Black people that they buy it into their consciousness that hey, we're at such big risk, we want to willingly go out and get it. I think they know that if they start forcing it, they're going to have major backlash, because people already are very wary of vaccination or the vaccination program. So they're going to try and force us to think, it's like you said, it's a big topic to go into, and I know you got a topic on families, but I think it's something we do need to look into for sure. Sorry.
Well, watch this though. This is where it does kind of tie up, because for me, when it comes to this lockdown, I keep telling people until the kids are released, the lockdown isn't over. And again, if they decide to come with this vaccine and say, all right, bypass the parents, but for us to release the kids mass, that needs to happen. Again, this is where they'll have a lot of people up over a barrel. You understand? By using that way, I think, rather than, as you're saying, go for the out and out fight straight away with the adults so much. You can enforce certain protocols using the kids as leverage. And again, this ties back into the family, because as much as, you know, we're talking about the breakdown of the black family and such, they will still use that as a leverage tool to get you to do certain things. So even in that subject matter is coming. Yeah, big up UK rep. Yeah, we're talking about the black family. We was just touching on the
psychological
vaccination.
Because we seem to find a thing of that we're not self-sufficient no more, and this is where it ties up to the family, in that, you know, we are talking about Black Lives Matter, we're talking about all these other things that matter, but are we getting to the actual roots of our situation in forms of our psychological trauma of over 1,000 years? Because we keep on fixating that it's 500, but it's over 1,000 years we've been going through this psychological trauma. So for me, is that the best protocol is to be able to understand how communities work, how communities are developed, what was put in place by our past, as in forms of our ancestors and people that have passed away, and seeing their models. Like, for instance, what Marcus Garvey did, what Booker T. Washington did, you know, what these guys put in place to able to encourage or to develop the black family into where it's supposed to be. But what we find now is that the system is always trying to create some form of division or divide, that we keep on failing in, where we're not developing the family. And when we're moving with this kind of trauma, what it does is it creates this, what we call the breakup, that there's no father in the home, or the woman is going about her business and leaving her children with the father, or the families are just too busy that they neglect the children. So there's so many facts to this, which, as I said, is that if we are trying to go into forms of economics, we're trying to go into forms of politics, or even spirituality. How can you go into spirituality and be sick? How can you go into politics and be sick? How can you go into economics and be sick? It just doesn't make no sense. So where is this sickness coming from? So how do we dissolve, or how do we able to help the family? Because that's where we need to begin. So does any of us brothers want to talk about the black family?
Yes, sir. I just wanted to chime in on the build, you know. I mean, I'll tie this all into the black family, but I just wanted to come from a different vantage point. I mean, in terms of all what we're talking about at the moment, vaccinations, etc., you know, there is talk that we are at the moment in a fifth dimensional shift, a frequency shift. There are some that are saying this is a frequency war. It's not a physical war. It's not a war that can be seen. It's a war of attention, frequency, love, and fear. All right. So what have we got here? We've got the psychology of social distancing, which is actually an unnatural human behavior. Self-isolation, which is unnatural human behavior, and prison behavior, and quarantine, which is unnatural behavior and prison behavior. So on a broader perspective, how do you lock down the whole planet simultaneously and successfully for a while? Because I wouldn't say it's totally successful. The protests that we saw that were happening recently, I would say was a glitch in the matrix, even whether it was created or naturally formed. But let's bring it back to the black family. Dr. Layla Africa, the late great Dr. Layla Africa, says the black family is the highest technology. The black family is the highest technology. Dr. Malachi Z. York says that love is the highest knowledge. So in terms of, we can come from a victim mentality and say they're going to do this to us, look what they're going to do. But really, I think what will be done will be based on our own individual personal knowledge base of what's going on. If you're going to be a sheep and you're just going to go in a queue, okay, the NHS queue, that's your choice. If you have the higher knowledge, if you know about CMOS and moringa and soursop leaf, you're going to be on a different frequency. So this is a frequency war, depending on where you're at mentally and emotionally. And the choices that will be made by us as individuals and as a collective will be based on what we know.
I agree with that as well. I think it's about knowledge. Knowledge is the key basis for our liberation, and I think the family is the key unit for any society, any politics, any organization. Often when I do my talks on politics, I usually start that, and when people tell me they're not interested in politics, we don't like politics, I often bring it back to the family and say, family is the first unit of politics. Before you even get to any systems of government or society or any organization, you start with the family and the organization of the family and that structure. And I think within our community, in particular, and we're seeing it right now with the situation with COVID and so on and so forth, that family structure is key. And I think in a time like this, when people are locked down at homes and so on and so forth, and especially within our community, I mean, if people are lucky to live in like houses and with gardens and so on and so forth, it probably has been not been such a bad time. But there are probably a lot of people in our communities in certain parts of London, and not just London, outside London as well, from the Black community who are powered into estates. Their father might be or might not be around. The mother might be forced to continue working in a frontline role or sector, and the youth probably left at home end up going back out on the roadside. So we do, and that's why I have to big up initiatives like the Manhood Academy and so on. But we have to really, as a community, come together and fund these things. So when, just say for example, a COVID or quarantine lockdown happened, imagine we were able to just go straight to the Manhood Academy and say, cool, we're opening up full time for youth. So you want to come? We got social distancing on Smash here. We know how we're going to run it. So parents who have to work, don't worry, your kids are going to be able to come here into this area. This is really what community is about, and this is all the extended areas that we have to get to for family. But I think it is important that those who have basically people who have solid family structures, who do start now looking at what they can do to create that family structure for those families who might not be so intact. Because I think quite often within the conscious community, we can get to a stage of looking around and thinking, oh, look how well we are doing, and perhaps not necessarily realize how many other people go untouched by the Black conscious community who are Black, who end up suffering from things like exclusions from schools and all these types of things. And not to say, I know there's a lot of people who are doing works in this area, but I think we do have to think about the people who aren't naturally going to come to us as a conscious community, and how do we pull them from the system that they're stuck in right now. I can keep going. Cool.
You guys see this comment on the screen. You guys see this comment on the screen from Scientific Method. Family doesn't provide you with knowledge about the universe. The Scientific Method does.
Okay.
Now, to me, Scientific Method, like, if you want to come on, the link's there. But you see, now this is a recessive statement, because again, this is where, for me, Black information, universal information starts with your family. Starts with your first experiences, which is your family circle. So again, you won't have any perception of the universe unless it's through your first experiences with your family. So inherently, you're backward with that assessment, Scientific Method. But again, feel free to jump on and voice your opinion. But just from that statement, I don't know how the rest of the panel feels about that. Please tell me what's your opinion on what he's just written.
Okay, well, I mean, thank you for that, Scientific Method. It's a bit rude. I mean, why did you put the dirt and the emoji, But yeah, okay, well, thanks for the build. It's like swords sharpen swords, right? Iron steel sharpens steel. But it's a flawed comment, I would say, and we can chop it up. I would say that I would not question personally the master teacher, Dr. Layla O. Africa, who's now an ancestor, first and foremost, recently. And for how long has he been doing this work and research on the Black family, on the Black community? Maybe 40 years plus. So in essence to that comment, social constructs, first of all, start with the individual, the self, then it expands to the family, then it expands to the community, then it expands to the nation, then it expands to the planet. So there's a lot of talk about what should our community do. And anyone who says that to me in any conference or any debate that I'm in, I just flip it back on the individual and I say, what are you doing? If you're not doing something for the community, what are you doing for your family? If you're not doing anything for your family, what are you doing for your children? If you have no children, what are you doing for your friend and your social circles to make an impact on their well-being? So it really starts with the individual. But in terms of the comment by Scientific Method, I'm a factologist, so I'll just drop the facts on you, and you can quite freely come back. But I'm going to expand upon the quote from the late great Dr. Layla O. Africa, and what he means by the Black family is the highest knowledge. All right. It's a quote actually from my book, Sacred Man, and I quoted Dr. Layla O. Africa, and I'll read it. It says, the first technology of the continent of Africa is the family. In traditional Western terms, technology means a scientific way to achieve a practical purpose. That is Western thinking. However, technology is a holistic method used to create a family, a community, and a civilization. The family holistically, mind, body, and spirit, was used as a basis for all growth and development of ancient African science technology. All right. So that basically breaks it down. It's the Black family that created the great monuments and pyramids of Egypt, ancient Sumer. You can go into Ethiopia. You can go into Sri Lanka. You can go into Australia. It was families and lineages that created these constructs. You cannot create a great civilization without a high vibrational functioning family unit. All right. At the moment, we are in a low vibrational frequency in terms of the Black family. And I'm optimistic. I do not believe it's always going to be like that. We've had shifts throughout the 20th and 21st century in terms of the Marcus Garvey movement, in terms of the 1960s civil rights movements. We've had growth spurts of where we've got it together. And I'm optimistic that we will do it again. And I think with the current state of events, it's looking like we may well get our act together.
No, definitely. I mean, you would hope so. Listen, that person had to get locked off because I'm being told that they're not even Black. So,
oh, it's trolling.
Again, it makes sense that they would say something stupid.
That was a comment, you know. My gosh.
Facts. You get me? Like, again, this is a free-for-all platform. Come on, chat. I saw we're joined by another person coming on now. But again, if you're not in your Black mind state, then it's better you stay away. And especially if you're not Black, it don't make sense coming over here, yeah? Because this is a Black platform, you get me? By Black people, for Black people. So this is how we're moving. But, you know, of lately, there's been this Black parenting, Black economics, the push for that. Again, how, in you guys' opinion, is the family tied to that? Is there correlation? Does it matter, again, having this core family when it comes to those situations? Or again, is this something that is a separate type of situation as opposed to us getting ahead in these other situations, like when it economics and I'm trying to think of something else. But yeah, in the economics, let's start with there. Is it still affecting, or is it something that's a separate?
Yeah, I think definitely it's connected. Economics has always been tied to family, and it will always be tied to family. I think something I get into a lot of debates within like the Pan African sphere about is the idea of economics and sort of this push for more black-owned businesses and things like that. 'Cause I do agree with it, but I think to myself, and I always argue is black-owned businesses in themselves are good. However, it's more about the politics of those businesses. So economics, in my opinion, should always be or is always a servant or subservient to the politics of the time or the politics of the people. So, for example, I could set up a black-owned business right now, put on black-owned business, and benefit from the black pounding. Take all of my money and go and spend it on in white communities, possibly a white wife, on all these other types of things. Do you know what I mean? So the situation has to be, what are you doing it for? It's not simply just about the black economics. It's about why are you doing black economics? And when you think about it in our community, it comes back down to the family. It comes down to building up community, building up families. And so that money, when I spend my money within a black family, a black business, it's not that I'm doing it just because I want to spend money with a black business. I would like that black business to employ more black people, to offer more opportunities to other black people within the community, and to help other black families. And that is really the core and the key of it. And that's where it comes down to. So I think, yeah, you can't, I mean, that's just one way of linking it. But when you look at economics itself, and you look at many different countries, for example, if you're just going to look at it from the very base Western capitalist model, like from America to the UK, about like many of the businesses that we see across these countries, the bread and butter that make these economies run are family-run businesses, family-owned businesses, family-owned corner shops, cafes, etc. These are pretty much what make the economy tick. And then you get the bigger corporations as well on top of that. But family-owned businesses are pretty much the start of it. So I think family is a key unit, like I say, for any society, any culture.
Yeah. So in adding to that, it is looking at what the black family is actually about. Because when you actually look at it in its full perspective, your home is an economical system. You have someone that cuts the grass, you have someone that sweeps the floor, you have someone that does the bed, you have someone that washes the plates, and you have the people that do the shopping and buy certain things for the house. For that to maintain in that house is a system which is economics. So when you're able to look at that perspective, you go into how does a community get made up. You look at the first protocol, they might bring a house of worship, or they might bring a community center where they can galvanize people or families to come together. Then the second protocol is to develop education, which they develop a school. All this comes under the forms of economics. So yeah, economics goes really deep into the core of that family, because without economics, how do you maintain your own household? How do you maintain your living?
Yeah, I mean, I absolutely agree. I think that economics is the missing link in our community. And I remember a meme. I love memes. I love WhatsApp memes because a picture speaks 1,000 words. And I remember there was a cartoon. I don't know if any of you remember this. It was like they were running around a track, and they had other cultures running, and then they had the black, symbolic of the black community running. And, you know, the other cultures were putting like things in their way. They were making pits for them to fall in, and the black community symbolically were falling backwards and backwards and backwards. And then through this marathon, the runner at the front passed on his wealth to a younger sprinter. And then he took the wealth and kept on running, and we were like way down the track. And I think it's symbolic of where we're at as a community. I would say in terms of the family, economics plays a major role in sustaining successful families. And there is a statistics. I saw statistics this week actually saying that families that have stability in terms of their income are much more likely to marry and to stay intact. Not all the time, but it is a key factor in terms of sustaining a relationship. And we could throw into the mix in terms of gender roles. A purpose of a man primordially, I'm not saying in modern day, is to really gather and hunt and bring back the food. Things have changed in the 21st century, but with the hindrance of the black man, being able to become successful in industries, in corporations, in promotions, and getting business loans. You know, we're kind of just getting off the starter mark almost in terms of economics. You know, successful. Let's take the model of a man, and we could take the model of a woman also. But a man who is successful economically is much more likely, you know, to attract a mate to marry, and you know, to create generational wealth for that family and building families and building generational wealth and legacy. So economics is a key factor in terms of what we've got to get together in terms of a community.
We now got Emma in the house. Emma, I know you've been just come in and you've just listened about the Black family. And I know as you have just been kind of not far along being wed. So in forms of understanding the family through your parents to where you are now, just give us a little info and start to discuss on one of the topic we're talking about.
Yeah, big up everybody. Hope everyone's well. Yeah, I was about to just pop and go and take my toast out of the oven. So give me 2 minutes. I'll be back.
Okay. So yeah, but you know, I want to quickly for us to dress back a bit because you know I want to go back to grandma time and why was grandma trying to keep hold of the family in forms of every Sunday we went to grandma's, all the families came together. What's happened to that kind of unit, and why are we in the situation of our families breaking up? So in forms before we even get to that stage of economics. So Rich, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, brother. One sec. Go on.
Oh, now I was just talking about from the times of grandmother and understanding the procedures of what grandmother stands for in forms of, you know, like when you met up with your cousins, your extended families and coming together, and what was really great about that at that time. But what has happened to that family in the forms of why we have broken up today?
Well, again, there's multiple reasons for that as far as the breakdown of the matriarchal system. But listen, I'm kind of getting people in and trying to work our link. Come back to me I'll come in 1 second. I'm just trying to get someone in and try a link. Yeah, give me 1 second, boys.
Brother Scattered.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like I just like give an insight on like how you've perceived the family from grandma to father, from father to where you are now, in the forms of how families are, and what do you feel that has broken up the family, that we're creating a big division within the family household today?
Economics again. It comes down to economics. I think economics have broken up the family in the Western world for a long time, going back to the 80s and 90s, I suppose, in which I suppose employability of the Black man was reduced, and I suppose it was favored along for a while in both sides of the Atlantic. Employability of the Black woman, I suppose, was I suppose taken a lot more. And I don't think that's not to blame the Black women or the sisters, but a system that at some point decided that Black men were no longer necessary for the workforce, and pretty much excluded them from the workforce from as early as school, which started explaining them, basically it's letting them know they're not needed, has led to a situation where, especially laws that have come in, and let's be fair, some of these laws have offered help to a lot of women and so on and so forth, but these laws that have come in that pretty much make it easier. Like if you're a woman and you're a single mother and you're from a poor background, it's easier for you to be housed by your council or whatever than if you're a woman who has a husband there with you, and so on and so forth. And whilst I understand it, yeah, of course, single mothers need help, they need houses. So do parents who have two-parent homes, and really that sort of thing encourages a lot more women to say, you know what, I don't need a man, I'll be able to do it on my own anyway, because the system allows for that. And I think, yeah, but at the same time, when I make that argument, I'm always also conscious to say that there were also issues within our community as well, right? issues of maybe black men not necessarily being as understanding of black women throughout those times, which have led to sort of fractures within the community. I would say, I mean, when we talk about the black family, I think it almost comes down. We can reduce it all the way back down to black love and looking at black relationships. And one thing that I try and do on my channel a little bit is actually talk about, you know, the dynamics between black men and black women just as the basis, because that's where we have to start from. And if we could get black men and black women working as partners and as teams, and understanding when they come together and create a child, they are creating a legacy and they're creating a dynasty essentially. And so they need to work together. It's imperative they work together. Even if they don't stay together, they still have a joint legacy and a joint dynasty together. They have to make work the best as possible. And I think that is perhaps a starting step. Like I say, economics has been a big breakdown because a lot of people are like, Sunday dinner, I can't do Sunday dinner anymore because I got to work. Do you know what I mean? Like there was a day when everything was shut on Sunday. Now everything's open and you have to work every hour, every minute of the day. That people don't have time to see family anymore. Sorry, I went a bit long.
Yeah. So we've got another person in the house, Melanated Goddess.
What's up, everyone?
I just wanted to talk in the forms of the black family and trauma. How do you feel that trauma has affected the family in today's world and what you've known in the past?
I think that trauma has it's very evident in what you see in the state of like how black households are today. I think that all of us bring with us our life experience, our experience within our immediate circle, our experiences within our environment, our immediate environment that we live in, and we're also impacted by vicarious trauma. So me living in Maryland, I'm still traumatized by what happened to George Floyd, vicariously being exposed to that incident. I'm traumatized. I'm traumatized every time another situation occurs. So that's like compounded trauma. So we as a people just are constantly experiencing different levels of trauma, whether it's personal or, like I said, like a larger community type of trauma, and that is going to have an effect on our families. It just has, like, you know, Scattered Minds kind of spoke about a lot of the historical things that occurred that contributed to the decline in like just people's roles being kind of mismatched or putting out of place as opposed to how it was in the times even before that. So that's traumatizing, you know, a woman being pushed or thrusted into the position of the quote unquote head of household. That's not a pleasing place for her to be, right? So that can be traumatizing. And what happens over time is that you adjust and you adapt, and you adapt to the point where that kind of feels like norm for you. So I think that a lot of Black women, not all, but a lot of Black women have to learn how to be in that position again. They need to be taught how to be in a position where you can actually relinquish control to a man, because you've always had to have this control where, you know, you even look at some of the stereotypical and I'm just going to say Black American films or even the comedians and so forth, like the entertainment sector, how they portray, it's like everyone talks about going to Big Mama's house. No one talks about granddaddy, right? No one talks about the granddaddy. It's always Big Mama. Big Mama made the decision. Big Mama tells you to do this kind of stuff. And for that to like flip, where you have that, I guess you could say, the more patriarchal structure of, you know, or even if you want to say something of having more balance. Let's not even say like the father has to be in control, but something where you got that like Ma'at energy, right? Man and woman, masculine and feminine, divine energy. It's been a couple of generations of people being out of that place. not to say that it can't get back to that, but as a result of that, yes, the people have experienced a level of trauma where you have men being accustomed to not having responsibility, men being accustomed to not having to do or be managed or be stewards over things. That's outside of their knowledge base. They haven't even seen it happen.
But don't you feel like, even when we talk about Big Mama, like there was a comment in the comment section, in that most of the days nowadays that Big Mama has become very young and still wants to experience her youth, where the Big Mama back then was much more of an elderly, which was
no, I don't think Big Mama was an elderly. So this would have been at least three generations. So, because my son's father is a African American, he has American heritage, and I met his great grandmother, and she was married to her husband when she was about 14. She was already she wasn't. And I met her, she was in her 90s. She's already having great grandkids by then. She was in her 90s when I met her, but she had been having children at a very early age. Her mother was a slave. So she was the first generation of freed people. They weren't waiting until they're in their 20s to start having children. No, they weren't doing that back then.
But what I was trying to get at is that most of the Big Mamas that we know today, they're either in some form of care home or some place where they're not around the family no more. Where before we would have that Big Mama, even though she is at a certain age, she will still be within the household. Where we would look after her within our family, where now that has been separated.
Right. Or even a lot of times people's Big Mamas are still working. They push back the retirement age in America. They push back the retirement age. So people have to work a lot longer now to receive retirement. So whereas before when people would have kids and by then their parents would be able to be retired, they could be the person that they could be the daycare provider. They don't got all of that is that dynamic has changed where children are now going into daycare or preschools because grandparents are still in the working force. They're still part of the working force.
Yeah, and as I said, is in the fact that the responsibility, don't you feel that the responsibility itself has been passed on to the younger generation to doing so?
Mm-hmm.
And
yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
MA, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
You're back once again.
I finished my toast and that. My toast is finished, so.
Hope you haven't burnt it yet.
Yo, big up MA for joining us here, bro. I've been looking for you for a hot second.
Big up Richie, man. Big up Richie. Big up Professor Konsu as well, man. Respect to you, man.
Oh, yeah, I gotta say this as well before you say what you're gonna say. We got Ultra Funky in the back as well.
You can bring Ultra Funky in, and then and I'll come out for a bit. All right,
cool. Go through, MA. Say what you was gonna say, brother.
No. I think Terry was gonna ask me a question.
Oh yes. Before I head out, what I was just saying is, I want to understand where your stance is, as in when you known from grandma to where you to your parents to where you are, and the structure of the family back then, and why do you feel that why is the issues of our families dividing?
That's a massive question. That's a big question. Yeah, man, I was blessed. Like I was blessed on both sides of my family, regarding my grandparents. On my dad's side, my dad's Jamaican. Oh, you lot got more than you don't even have to go nowhere, Terry. You got like 9 people on here or something, man. Anyway, yeah, I was blessed on both sides of my family. My dad's side is from Jamaica, St. Mary, and my grandma and her husband, they built a stronghold in Acton, in North Acton, whereby, you know, they both passed on now, and they were able to, you know, sell the children. They were able to sell the house. So those foundations were there. We were always there every weekend, every other weekend. Like all of the grandkids then was there. Me and my cousins. You know, there was never a time where we couldn't stay around. You know, we used to get our hair combed, like in some ruthless.
I know you can't see me.
That was Carla, innit? Yeah. Yeah, we were blessed, man. We were blessed. Grandma was always there. She was a nurse for the NHS as well for about 20 years. So she had those grandma hands. You get me?
Bless up, Grandma.
Yeah, man. Grandma Rose.
So let's put it in this format. You know, like as you know, the pandemic is going on at this precise moment, and everyone's talking about economics, everyone's talking about politics, but no one is going back to the immediate family. Why do you feel that the family is vital for us to able to move forward?
To move forward, I think if we take it back to the Windrush generation, and I'll flip to my mum's side for a second. So my mum's side from Dominica. When they arrived here, my mum and my grandma and my great grandmother, when they arrived, within maybe 10 years, my great grandmother was able to purchase a house. She weren't too familiar with the property law at the time, but she was able to purchase a house that was about 3 or 4 stories tall. And all people from Dominica that would come to London would be able to stay at her house. So she had up to 30 people living there at any one time. And this set a precedent. This was something that was familiar to African people, period, where you have a house or you have a village with multiple houses and people stay locked into a familial kind of setup, right? So the support network is already there. People can look after each other's children. There is a foundation to build wealth from. There's a certain amount of safety, and there's a chance to either reignite or maintain or even begin cultural legacies, right? So in London, because this was my primary answer when I heard Melanated talking. One of my answers is proximity. There's a lot of grandmas. There's a lot of grandparents out there that are living, that have had to leave the ends, so to speak, move out of the area, or even move out of the period. So it's very hard for some people to kind of get to their grandparents, or for their grandparents to be able to facilitate them in the first place, right? One of the things I speak about is the fact that my auntie and thus my grandmother's old house is maybe a 10-minute walk from where I live now. My cousin lives 2 roads away from me. I can run to his house in about 60 seconds. And right opposite him, my wife's family house is. My granduncle lives about 20 minutes walk away. So like I live in a community where my family still exists. And that's something very rare for Black people in 2020 to have that, you know, unless you live like way out in the sticks or in a smaller city. It's very hard to have that. I live in inner West London. You get me? It's not easy to have that. And as a consequence, I have to pay extortionate rents. But I think proximity is a massive part of it. You know, but I think everyone's pretty much said a lot of the reasons. You know, Tahaka was talking about having to work, and so was Melanated. That's a big one. You know what I'm saying? Like to accrue enough wealth to be able to have the extra time. That's something that, our grandparents had it hard as well. However, they were able to make their money stretch much further than we are now. So, you know, my mum, for example, still works. So
yeah, that's big facts.
You get me?
Okay. So Ultra, as you're in the house and you spoke, and as you've got a new member to the family, And I want to give the public an understanding of how you have able to maintain and to look after your family, and how did you gain your experiences and what you see outside there. And and if you can put in more into it, it'll be nice.
All right. Okay. Well, first and foremost, big up Black Eyes TV family. Big up everyone on the panel, everyone on the chat. I'm gonna just tell you straight and out. I learned everything that I know today from early childhood. I saw the way my dad would get up in the morning with his little lunchbox and go to work, and then I saw that nanny was up with her little apron, ironing, cooking, and the aunties would be cleaning, and we would all be in this tiny 3-bedroom flat. And somebody mentioned proximity. Now, for me, that was normal life. As I got older, I realized that my dad was the perfect male specimen, like in terms of his behavior. He was a little out of shape, he was a little round around the edges, but the way he carried himself through life is something that was not only inspiring, but it was exactly what I needed. The reason why I say that is because I'm just going to segue quickly. I didn't experience any early childhood trauma, right? And it's only now that as an adult I can reflect on that. We'll circle back to that, right? I saw my dad never disrespect any of the women in my family. I saw him go to work. I was under the impression that we were poor, but that's not what it was. What my dad was doing was saving every single penny to purchase something for the future. Now, what that showed me was not everything is as it seems. There's always a goal, and the goal has to be raise well-balanced, self-sufficient children. They're your legacy. And if you show them from early the skills that they'll need to navigate through life, and not just life itself, but life's challenges, the people that you're going to come into contact with, sometimes those people are challenging, they will be okay and you can rest easy. And it's just to circle back to the early childhood trauma. The studies have been done, and I don't have it to hand, which is obviously quite disgusting on my part, but there's a direct link between early childhood trauma, delinquency, and poor mental health. Now, where children grow up in a loving household where they don't have any worries about whether or not they're going to have a meal this day, or mom's going to get beaten up, or dad's drunk, these types of things is these things you need to eliminate from your home. If you're stressed and work stressing you out, or you're short on the light bill, as my dad would call it, that's nothing to do with the children, and they're never ever supposed to know these things. Never ever ever ever. As a child, the child's only job is to come home, have a bath, and have a dinner. If your child is worried about anything other than that, mom and dad, we got to look at each other, because it's wrong. Now, to be a man, you take care of your woman, you maintain her, you make her feel wanted, needed, and desired. That's it. If you do those 3 things with your woman, everything else is cream cheese. When you ask her for a sandwich, if she feels wanted, needed, and desired, do you think she's going to tell you to go F yourself? Do you? Figure that out. with your children, the only thing you need to do is make sure you invest time. And I realize in 2020, it is difficult, whether it be distractions from work, distractions from social media, or I need to cook, or you've got more than one child and this child is reading a book, but this child needs help with their math, and you can stretch yourself thin. And this is why it's imperative that you work as a team. And also, mom and dad, your mental health is imperative. It's priority one. Like, if I'm honest, I'm probably ranting, I'm all over the place, but mental health is, before you can even look at group economics, before you can even look at opening shops and businesses, no, you need to make sure your head is screwed on.
Facts.
That's
Like,
facts.
yeah.
Ultra Funky, can I just
Yeah.
offer some research to you to support what you're saying? And like, if you're ever on another panel,
Yeah.
you know, you can also bring this information. You
Yeah.
know,
Do you know what I'll do?
I
I'll
don't
tell you what I'll
really
do.
speak on it much, but I do.
Yeah.
I'm a mental health professional, so
Yeah.
there's a study, and the study is on something called ACEs, Adverse Childhood Experiences. If you guys want to look that up, ACE is called ACEs.
Maybe that's the
And
American equivalent to early childhood trauma in the UK.
yeah,
I can easily
well,
bring
the
up that study.
experiences are like
Yeah.
having a parent who's incarcerated, experiencing violence, being sexually molested, being something like being homeless. So it's not, it doesn't have to be like being a victim of something. It could just be witnessing something, or just experiencing like a transition, like having your parents be divorced or something like that. It could just be some sort of like huge transition for a child, but it's usually something that happens during their early development. So it's an
I agree.
adverse childhood experience, ACEs, right? And if a child experiences 3 ACEs, they have 3 or more ACEs, they are they actually have a higher risk of having cardiovascular disease. They have a higher risk of developing a substance abuse problem. They have a higher risk
alcohol
of
dependency.
alcohol and drug dependency. They have a higher risk of incarceration. Like, they have done a significant amount of research specifically on these ACEs. So that's just to support what you're saying, not to, like, you go ahead.
No. You're
to
absolutely
you,
right. You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. Everything you just mentioned is these things are mentioned in the.
Can I some examples of what one of those things?
Sorry,
I
couldn't hear. Sorry, bro.
I'm going to go to my computer and I can just read to you what the ACEs actually are, because there's like a list of 12 of them, and they actually did a study in a classroom where they went to they gave like the worksheet to I forgot how many hundreds of students, and the students just had to check to see, like, check which of these applied. And then I guess through looking at their grades or through interviews or whatever, they were able to get this correlation of students who had X amount of ACEs, what would be the outcome later on. So, in the work that I do with young people, we definitely use that data to kind of guide what type of interventions to really put in place early intervention strategies to kind of mitigate some of those things. So sometimes we do have groups about, like, like if I have 8 kids whose dads are in jail, then we might want to address that instead of just ignoring the fact that their dads are in jail. You know what I mean? We might want to just to mitigate maybe their academic performance later on in life, later on down, a couple of years later.
Okay.
Oh, sorry, Terry. Let me, because I ranted on for a while. Let me just quickly summarize it. Yeah. My dad showed me.
Listen,
in my opinion, my dad is the perfect male example.
Hey, Ultra Funky.
Yes, sir.
Ultra Funky.
Oh,
Say that last bit again. People,
Yeah,
mute up your mics because sometimes there's a little bit of interference. Yeah. Afterwards, Carla wants to say something. Who's joining us?
yeah.
Because she's
Big up,
also
Carla. Listen, I'm done now, Carla. I promise.
Go to,
No more. Yeah, I'm just gonna say my dad is the perfect male example. He taught me how to navigate through life. He's taught me lessons that I didn't take in until now. I realized, obviously, late that the things he did were not only just awesome but inspiring. To maintain a healthy relationship, you just need to make your woman feel wanted, needed, and desired. Everything else is cream cheese. With your children, they will be your legacy. Besides whatever works you do, big up Black Ice TV, Shakira, you guys all doing the works. But your children will be your legacy, and you need to just figure out what type of legacy do you want to leave behind. Now, whatever it is, you need to invest your time. Provided you've done that, you can rest easy. All right, Carla, come true.
Okay, so thank you. Sorry, I've come in late, and my screen is playing up, so I can't even see the names of people. So sorry, what's your name? Sorry.
His name's Ultra.
Ultra, yeah, Ultra.
Okay, hi Ultra. I was just gonna say, just to lead on, not to say too much, but just to say, like, with what you were saying about family and stuff. And so I was just gonna say, you were saying about in the UK. I know someone just spoke about the US, and like we learn about a whole bunch of stuff. But for example, on a different level of like psychotherapy, which is what I study and stuff, and we would be looking at like John Bowlby attachment theory, Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and Erik Erikson. And so that kind of sets off what you're saying about how the mindset of the parent as well as the children, when it comes into the children and how they are as well. We live from the caregivers, but everything in society and culture is what is how we learn. So you're saying, for example, you came from a good family and whatever, that would be a secure base. Not everybody has a secure base, or even if they do, society changes them. But at the same time, when you were saying as well about parents, or I think you said, if I remember you saying, parents looking at themselves as well. So your dad didn't show, like you never knew when the bills were due or the stresses that they had. A lot of parents do that. And I feel that with us to repair ourselves and to reconstruct ourselves, we need to start looking at who we are as a people, as a person, as the mother, the father, the caregivers, as well as the children. So it's kind of like a family of people that need to learn individually who they are and how they can affect other people with what they're doing. So if you didn't have that background that you have, you probably wouldn't even be on the show talking how you're talking, if that makes sense. I'm not sure if I'm making sense, but I'm just saying it's the whole attachment theory and our basic needs.
You're good. You're making perfect sense, sis. You're like tying everything together. That's what's up.
Yeah. So, yeah.
No, go on, sis. Go on.
Yeah, so I was just saying, basically, it's a whole connection of how people have to work together.
Also, Carla,
Sorry.
can you please give your opinion on how you maintain your woman by just simply making her feel wanted, needed, and desired, and then everything else falls into place?
Ultra, man.
I love it, Ultra.
Okay, I love that, because that's a heck load what you just asked. However, I would say in general, I see every single person as an individual. So we're all individuals, whether we're women or men or children or whatever. There are also basic needs that we need to be met. I would say how to keep your woman a certain way. It's a bit of an anomaly, but however, like you said, there are certain levels. So yeah, of course, if you listen to her, if she listens to you, everything is reciprocity. So if you listen to her and she can listen to you, if you can be connected with her and understand her in as much as you can, if you're open with her and she's open with you, if you're loving and kind and she's loving and kind to you, everything has to come back and forth, not in the exact same way, because we can't always do that, but just in the way that you are, and just to show general patience. But yeah, like you said, like if you're going to talk to your woman in a certain way and expect her to make you a sandwich later, and the respect wasn't there or the care wasn't there, then why would she? But I guess when we think about it, in my opinion, when you're in a relationship, what is it that you're looking for and what is it that you're giving? Whatever it is that you're doing, then in some ways she should be able to kind of give it back. If she can't, then she has her own issues and everyone does. But in general, it's a give and take. So I can't give you the answer. If I could, I wouldn't be single. So
No, wait,
yeah.
hold on. Yeah, I hear you. Oh, sorry, be loud. Talking about knowing exactly what level your wife's on, she just gave me the get off Hangouts look. So I'm gonna have to part ways with you guys, because
Oh wow, that's exceptionally interesting.
Yeah. No, also, do you know what it is? We just had a little one as well. So I'm gonna be in the chat, but I'm gonna
Big up,
follow back up.
Ultra.
All right,
Bye.
big up to everyone on the panel. Peace, peace,
Bye,
peace, peace.
Ultra. Bye, Ultra.
That's all. Big up Ultra every time. Big up. Listen, people, before we carry on the discussion, before we carry on, everyone in the chat, you know the routine. Please hit that like button, share this out, bring people in. You see how we can have more people now on the panel. I just like sorted that out and realized that we can have
that is
10,
so
that's
fancy.
good.
Go ahead, Richie. You fancy.
Trust me.
Okay, so Richie, in forms of reflection of what's going on and what we've discussed so far, give us an overview of what your mind is saying.
To the people that just came on recently, so Carla, Wagwan Sunray, big up, come from the southern hemisphere of Australia, you get me, representing us, big up to you.
From Fiji.
We were talking about the importance of the black family. That's all. We was talking about the importance of the black family and whether or not it's needed for us to achieve these different things that we need to achieve in modern day society. So again, whether it's us getting more economic power, us having a better educational status, us being a better community in general, is this needed? Are we thinking in out-of-date terms? Because again, a lot of us are coming from single parent families now and have been raised pretty well. But in saying that, is that the way to go? Are we putting too much emphasis on this man, woman, children scenario? So this is where we started from. People was obviously talking about the correlation between family and economics and family and other situations. So that's where we're coming from. That's been the overview so far. Again, the link is in the chat. I'm going to repost it right now. Anybody's allowed to come on and jump on and voice your opinion. It is an open discussion, so please don't stand on ceremony. Unmute your mic and say what you need to say. Sunray, especially, and Carla, add to that what I've said so far. And again, everyone else on the panel, please feel free, come in. And I'm going to keep putting up the link that Mr. Riggs is putting up, which is this. So you need to go to your Instagram and support something that me and Riggs are trying to put into effect of this Black Family First movement that we're doing. So just go follow us on Instagram, support that. There'll be other things coming as we move along. But anybody that has any comments, go to.
Professor Konsu.
Before we go to, because I wanted so that people understand is I wanted us to go through in the mind state on that between that spiritual to that mental level aspect of things, because we've talked about the physical aspects of it, but in the forms of what you do and how you deliver the things that you do, I just want you to give us an insight on the reflection of what we've just spoken so far.
Is that Professor Konsu?
Yeah, Professor Konsu.
Yeah, okay. Well, in reflection, I mean, this is a rich build, and in reflection, as I said earlier, and I stick by it, the Black family is the highest form of knowledge and technology, as quoted by Dr. Layla O. Africa, the late, great Dr. Layla O. Africa. Respect to Sunray, man. Sunray got his snacks. He's got his flag in the background. He's good, man. He's just kind of ready to build. But anyway, I just wanted to say,
don't forget my flowers, though, but anyway.
We are experiencing the phenomena of the rise of the single parent family. the high dysfunction that is occurring in our community worldwide. And it's actually the antithesis to the family being, you know, the highest form of culture, the Black family. So in recap of what we've been speaking about, what do we have? We have the breakdown of the extended family in the Black community. When I was raised, you had auntie and uncle coming around every Sunday, playing dominoes, soca music, the children playing Lego and video games upstairs. All right. When I speak to the young people I work with about my childhood, it's almost a foreign concept to them. Yeah. You know, so we have the phenomenon of the rise of the single parent family and the breakdown of the extended family. We still have healthy numbers in one culture in this country and in many countries around the world, and that is the culture of India, who have managed to maintain their culture and a rich extended family. And we can see the fruits of that in how they function in terms of business, whether you like them or not, whether you patronize their business or not, they have a healthy extended family network. So we're also experiencing the elder in the family has become obsolete in Western society. It is when you become an elder, 60 plus, you are no longer needed. Yeah. This is also in conflict to Africa-centered culture, where the wise elders of the family were the ones you seek counsel, right? Now, the wise elders are shifted into care homes where the door's locked and they watch daytime TV all day, you know? So that is chronic in our community. The wise elders passed on their wisdom to the young'uns, which in essence is rites of passage. In Africa-centered rites of passage, the wise elders functioned with the younger ones to pass on the wisdom. So in terms of, we're talking about Big Mama, you know, that's a phenomenon that is being dissolved in our community. I just wanted to touch on a few more things. I'll be brief, but we also touched on attachment theory, which is something that I specialize in. I work in a let's say a trauma high school, a high school with traumatized children. So I've studied attachment theory, and I wanted to tap into attachment theory. We have to keep in mind the Windrush generation. For example, my parents, my mother came over when she was 15. So if we're talking about attachment theory, which is early trauma or being pulled away from your family and experiencing some form of trauma, what happened to our whole generation who came over? A lot of the Windrush came over. My dad came over at 16. He's still a youth. So how did that psychologically affect them? And how does that affect us who are the children of the Windrush generation? You know, maybe some of the psychologists in this bill can add to that.
Okay. We've got a new guy in the house, as I know from other platforms. Our brother, God of Jacob.
Shalom, shalom. What's good, panel? Chat.
What's good,
man? We here, ain't we?
Yep, 100%.
I like this eclectic mix of people right now that I'm looking at. It's beautiful.
So I'm God of Jacob. I wanted to understand in your perspective, because you do a lot of works, even within the community, and the works that you actually do in the family and things like that. What is your opinion about the Black family and starting from that Black family?
You know, when I was coming up, brother, my father personally, he didn't teach me and my brother how to work. He taught us how to hustle. And that was the problem for us. We never had that example of working. We knew how to hustle, and we also had a legacy of getting locked up off that hustle. My father would get locked up, and the responsibility would go to my brother. Well, guess what happened to him? He got locked up. I'm up next. Guess what happened to me at 15? I'm locked up. So we passed down some knowledge, and it hurt us. So, but you know, for me, when I got locked up, it was a blessing and a curse, because I had an opportunity to either, you know, do that little time or join the military. So I was like, I'm not staying in this box. So I went. But it turned out to be a blessing in disguise, because when I got in there, I maximized every effort in there. You know, at the age of about 23, 7 of us, just from communities like me, we pulled together and we started buying properties in our distressed neighborhoods. And from then on, man, it was cooking. We was on the money, and we were able to set our families up and also do, you know, what we do in the community now. So we turned that
Self-sustainability.
that negative into a positive, whether we didn't know it or not at that time. But you know, we took advantage of that market before, you know, when it was at the pinnacle. And I ain't gonna lie, some white boys put us on. You know, they showed us how to grind, but after we learned, you know, we didn't need them no more. And it was on after that. And now my daughter, she kind of do the you know, the flipping industry, and that's something she thrives on now. Because another thing, we push our kids into debt, and in debt I mean college, right? You come out of these colleges and you got $40,000-$50,000 in debt and can't get a job. I told my daughters, hey, you know, I'm not cutting this check unless you're not going to be no dancer or nothing like that, man. Negative. If it ain't about no doctorate and stuff like that, daddy ain't cutting that check. So we got to put this thing to use. All right, I work hard. So you know, but she, you know, she went into my oldest is still in the military. She followed after me. I tried to talk her out of it, but hey, it is what it is. You know, my daughter, she went in and found out it wasn't like the movies. Got on up out of there, you know, and now she's doing what I do. So, you know, we got to just, it's difficult. Every situation is different, and that's all I got to say. But, you know, what I did know about Big Mama, just to talk about Big Mama for a second, Big Mama owned her house. We have become career renters instead of property owners. If push come to shove, you could go to Big Mama. But now Big Mama is renting a house, or she is in assisted living. Big Mama ain't got that no more. We ain't got nowhere to turn to. You can be stoned out, cracked out, whatever, but you can go to Big Mama's basement. You know what I'm saying? And we don't own that. We have become career renters as a community. So, you know, you just gotta put your foot down and have a mindset to go get it. That's what I say on that.
I detect no lies. I detect no lies, though. You told God of Jacob.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Why you not so low today, Melanie Goddess?
I'm sorry.
Your mic sounds low today.
Oh, I'm wearing a stupid mask. That's why. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay. I feel you.
Can I just say though to Professor, hi Kunsi, just in reply to when you were saying about, and by the way, sorry, hi everyone, and I agree with what was just said, but just to say, when we were talking about the Asian community, there's many communities that we can align ourselves with in the sense of looking at their examples. The difference is in my opinion, humble opinion, they have a nation. They have a set of people they can go to. We are either Asiatic, Moors, Black, whatever you want to call yourself, but there's a whole range of us that don't have this thing, unless you're specifically like my family are Jamaican or something. But when they are the highest one of the highest populations in the world, essentially, and also they have alliances, and they have so much more going on. So when they come to this country, and I'm not saying anything you don't know, I'm just saying, when they come to this country, the way that they can maneuver with the banks, the law, with everything, which brought them on board, they were not subjugated as we were. So they were technically could be officers of the law within their realm. They were allowed to be. So we are, not all of us, but many of us are displaced. And the Indian people aren't. They have a culture and they can always go back to where they're from. So I sometimes feel like it's really unfair, but not that it's not a basic. I feel like it's really unfair when we do look at ourselves and juxtapose ourselves to if there was a war. I can't personally say that. Like I've got, you know, for example, my sister who's half Trini, half Indian. I've got me, Jamaican, my family Jamaican. I've got like half Jamaican, half Indian. Like it's just, so it's a hard thing to say the Black community juxtaposed to an Asian culture or country. But I do understand what you mean, and I'm hoping that we'll become together as a unity in some kind of way and understand one or more. And to not talk too much, but just to say as well about my opinion, because I didn't get to say earlier, but my opinion on the Black family rejoining or repairing themselves. What we're missing is the spiritual part of it, but that is from the past, as I spoke before about other things like that. So it's in the past, it's spiritual. But right now, it's about repairing, reconstructing, and understanding yourself as a person. And even within the society that we're in, it's really hard to do because we're still in an occupied land, or we're being occupied as well. So it's a really hard thing to do, but I do think it's an important conversation.
Yeah. Well done.
Yeah, I wanted to.
Well done, Sunray. Oh,
Yeah,
sorry.
I'll
Go on.
jump in,
Sorry,
man.
sorry. Say-
Oh no, you go ahead, and then I'll go.
Now let
Yeah.
Sunray go through. I'll come through afterwards. Don't worry.
All right, easy. No more. Like, I was just gonna say, like, peace, much peace to everybody on the panel. Uncle Rich, absolute. We know. Props to everybody in the chat. Make sure you're hitting that like, subscribing, telling your friends, building up this platform, and everything related to it. I hope that you're well and you're being brilliant. But yeah, towards the family unit and all that thing, that's quite interesting because I was watching. I mean, that's how I grew up a couple of decades ago. I'm in my early mid-30s, right? 34 now, and it's like 2 decades ago. I'm first generation Australian, so born here, but parents are from Fiji. Feel more at home there due to the racial issues of the colonialism and stuff, but or settlement, whatever. But back then, it was more about that. Even here, it was advertised as like the average family is a mother, a father with 2.5 children. So that was like the picture that you'd see a mum and a dad with the 2 children, and then be going to church kind of thing. And now that all got phased out over the past kind of 2 decades of my life. Like, so now we're in the situation which we are in. To me, I still feel that, you know, because we are human, we're from this earth, you know, like, so it's a natural thing of reproduction. You don't see any animal out there interact or having sexual interaction with the same sex kind of thing to do anything. So for reproduction, we need a man and a woman to continue, be natural and go on. But just on that basis, like yesterday I saw a stream on another one where basically they were saying that is the normalized way of life now, to have one parent, to be of choice of gender. You might have a two genders same adopted child or whatnot. So that is kind of the normality which we are living in. Now, as to say if we are to go that way, that's the beneficial way, I wouldn't be sure, because actually, even as God or Jacob just said before, he's had his family lineage of, you know, the being locked up, and just in the, even that sort of mentality may have been socially inbred with the. You still hear little stories of, you know, carts of firearms being dropped in below socioeconomic areas, lots of drugs being, you know, infiltrated into that area, and we all know that the top level suit and tie know where they're going, where these things are going, because they produce them. So that sort of in itself was a generational behavior which took over 3 generations, maybe even 4. No, not 4, because he's taught his daughter the best bet or a different way. So, you know, that was a behavior which could be infiltrating within us now, like to walk away from the normal natural standard family and to go into this new normalized, you know, you could have two fathers and a daughter, or 2 mothers and a son. So, I mean, I'm not going either which way, but I mean, well, I suppose I will go either which way. I will say that I probably think, because, you know, it's better to be natural. We're from the earth, so let's live off the earth, man. Because I always say we need to take a few steps back toward nature, and prioritize our needs over wants, because all this modern technology and stuff that helps us with the conveniences in life, we can all see what detrimental stuff it does to the planet and to even our ways of life. Like, I mean, people are stuck on social media now. They're not really looking after their health or fitness. They're not caring what they're eating about. They're not growing their own food or anything like that. Yeah, and then I mean that's just to sum up what I was saying about the family issue. And I'll just say one more thing in regards to how can't see the name of the lady just above me. Here's a picture of her. Oh yeah, Carla. She was saying how we're individualistic, because it is true. We're all individuals, and so we all got to realize that, recognize that. And as she was saying about the partners and things, you do something reciprocal, which is nice. So if it's for a man, like it might be you cook him his meal for the wife, and then for the partner, and for the male, get her some flowers or something like that. Like you don't have to cook her a meal, you do, or maybe you do, and that's something nice. But at the same tone, I say we're all human, so we all have those similar needs of compassion, love, food, sleep, and just those basics of life that we should all have, but we don't, because there are homeless people out there. There's disparages between the rich and the poor and all this stuff. But hey, I don't have all the answers. This is just my expression and opinion. So yeah,
Lost
that's all
soul,
I have.
Bridget. That's all you can do. Give us your opinion, innit? That's what it's about. D, are you there? D. Kin.
I'm here.
I rocked him to sleep.
What's going on, family?
Yeah, not too bad. Loving the topic. Boy, family. Yeah, boy. What can I say? Well, I've been a single parent for the past 16 years. My family background is I've experienced quite a lot of so-called trauma from when I was quite young. Both my parents were in jail. I've been in children's homes. I've lived with family and stuff like that. So for me, that kind of structure of like, the stability of having like mum and dad at home, I've never had that. I've never had that. And I don't know, it's a bit of a weird one, because to be honest, I think I've done okay. I think I've done okay with my son, I'm quite proud of him. I'm quite proud of myself. I think, yeah, I do know that coming from the background that I've come from, it has been quite challenging to kind of create a stable environment for my son. And I do find myself kind of reverting back to some learnt behavior, but having kind of like an overstanding of things, I can kind of see my behavior, and I try to challenge it at times, which is not easy, but yeah, it's an ongoing thing, and
I think
I'm just learning.
We are survivors, like, I mean, just even worldwide around culturally, obviously, there've been the effort to really actually eradicate and genocide and infiltrate the whole our form of our older culture. Just to say on that, because you haven't seen the standard of a natural normal family, as you said, like both your parents, but you've done well.
Right.
You've raised your child and you don't feel anything's wrong. So I think I was just going to say, just to add another, like, I think these could be points of attempted poisoning into our community. Like with what God of Jacob was saying, that criminal behavioral element might maybe, something to drop in. And now we've got the breakup of the standard family, and you can do whatever you want. That could be another attempt at breaking up our community and
It
way of
is.
tradition.
It is. Listen, today's society is built on the whole premise of do what you want. It doesn't matter as long as you're behind closed doors. That's one of the major things that's kicked out there. And again, it goes against you having any collective code or understanding how to deal with each other. So again, that's going to affect the family structure. That's going to affect the wider community structure. And again, if you're promoting that level, then as I said, straight away you're washing away a whole level of codes of conduct, morality, you know what I'm saying, ways to treat each other, things to expect from your immediate family to your outer family and the wider village. So it's definitely on purpose, because again, I think everybody on the panel has kind of pretty much agreed the importance of the black family. So from there, if we know this, then it is only to look at all the different ways then that they trying to erode that and take away that keystone of the whole entire nation, wider community, black nation, however you want to coin it. That's just the fact of it. You know what I'm saying? And again, as I keep saying to people, one thing they keep saying to people, if you can't do certain jobs, like the most powerful jobs in the world are still governed and helped by you having a family, by people seeing that you can govern a household and you can govern that family unit, however it is, but by you having that in its best format is a big signpost to tell people how competent you are in other areas of your life, possibly. And again, that could be a sham, but it's still used as a hard, fast signpost as to tell you the level of person you're dealing with. And that's not even black people, that's white people that do that still. You know what I'm saying? You can't be the president and just have no family ties, or you know what I'm saying? Those things are important, especially for leadership positions. You know what I'm saying? So if that's the case in the wider sense, how should we be going on? You know what I'm saying? Should it be as important for us as black people, especially when we get into conversations about leadership and do we need leaders and where do they come from? You know what I'm saying? How can you even judge someone to be a leader if you've never seen them even govern their own selves or their household?
Like, I mean, just to jump in, because you were like, sorry if anyone else is there, just quickly there was like, because what you were saying, you know, now do what you want now in these days, and you're facing away from the behaviors, your traditional behaviors of your ancestors and things, right? Like this is the behaviors that they were doing, but it may not fit in this time frame on the environment, but this is what we may have to change the environment so it goes back to the traditional ways of what we were doing. But to what you just said then, how it did make sense, like, you know, to have the you can't be a position of formal governance or leadership if you can't even have a family unit and solid and, you know, have a resume sort of thing which proves this. But that made me think firstly of now the environment. Donald Trump, he's been divorced, he's married some younger model type looking woman, and also just prior to that, you think Bill Clinton, even though he was the prime minister or president or whatever, he had his little scandal, you know what I mean, with Monica Lewinsky. So he was not being faithful to his partner, but they still let him engage in the top position. But I'm not taking away from your point at all. But that is just the reality of the situation. I mean, you know, maybe they don't really care. I mean, they do and they don't. You know what I mean? Like it's suitable when it suits. When it suits.
I was going to say,
Sorry,
I was going to say, like, I totally agree. I totally agree with what you're saying, Sunray. Totally. And I was discussing with someone earlier about the leadership skills. And like you just said, you know, you've got Donald Trump, who's literally going out with a ex kind of porn star, because, well, not porn, but I don't know, nudity, however you want to put it. And then obviously she's technically an illegal immigrant in the country as well. Huh?
Wow, really?
Yeah, so technically she's an illegal immigrant or whatever. And so he has. Thank you. I didn't want to say, I said it earlier in my conversation, but I was like, sometimes I need to fact check myself totally. But as far as I know, she was, you know, so she did all of that stuff. Thank you, Kim. And then, you know, and then we're moving on to England, you know, with Boris, with his wife that's always having rowdy, drunken arguments, and they're not even married, and they've just had a child out of wedlock. Not that I have a problem with that personally, but what they're trying to say, the 2.5 or 2.4, whatever you call it, family kind of thing. Then I was saying to the other person earlier about the French president with his wife that he met in school, and she was his teacher. And the kind of a thing is that the list goes on, and it's relevant to the current circumstances. So we don't even have to go too far back. It's actually what's happening now. And if you even look at the Koreans and everyone in what we're doing, you know. So as far as leadership skills are, this blueprint that we're running from them, it doesn't work. And everything that we're running with now is a reason as to the collapse of our society. So we cannot follow their blueprint or their examples of what they're showing us, because you guys are taking it down. But what we need to do is to take the blueprint from the past and to format our own one going forward, because as Black people, and I mean this of anyone of any color or culture that's listening, as Black people, we always evolve. The only way we evolve is to bring our minds together and to understand what we're doing to move forward. So come together and stop. Forget the patriarchal system, forget the matriarchal system. It's just about understanding who we are. We don't need a specific leader because we're so fragmented that we can't follow one person. Like I am unaffiliated to anyone except for my spiritual divine. And even that is different. So it's about just understanding how to move forward in people. And with Kim, I'll just say, as well with Kim, like I totally understand where she's coming from. I realized that I even normalized the fact that I'm not from a family of a mother and father, like, but because it was so fine for me and I had my stepdad, it feels like it's good. So when we talk about Black families, in my opinion, and probably everyone else's that I didn't hear earlier, it's not just about the mother and the father and the kids. It's about everyone in between and running. So yeah, again, we go back to spirituality, we go back to our mindset and understanding of who we are, and hopefully help one another to coexist and move forward. Yeah.
Yes, I just wanted to come into the mix. Yeah, big up, Carla. I just love you know, your viewpoint. And I just wanted to throw into the mix, and this is for the sisters predominantly, but we're talking about cultural blueprints and the collapse of our society. Also, I mentioned earlier about the phenomenon of the rise of the single parent family and the rise of the blended family, which is adaptation, which is what we do in our community. We just adapt to the situation. So, you know, we do have healthy mixtures of blended families, not conventional, but, you know, all kind of different mixes that just raises the Black child in a healthy environment in many cases. But I wanted to drop a quote for the sisters, right, from my book. And I wanted your feedback, Carla Kin, Melanated Goddess, okay? It's very brief and I'm just gonna read it. What it says is, it's from my book, Sacred Man. It says, white flag up in surrender. Unanimously, the feminist movement won the battle of the sexes fought throughout the 20th century. Furthermore, in critical mass, statistics reveal women have never been as busy, stressed out, and unfulfilled as in this new millennium. So I just want to know what your views are on that in terms of shifts in gender roles and how it is affecting us as, you know, the divine masculine, the divine feminine in current times.
Woo! Well, I don't know, with this feminism thing. To be honest with you, I don't really get it. I don't understand what it's all about. I mean, at the end of the day, a woman is a woman, a man is a man, and naturally, we should know what our roles are within a relationship. If that makes, oh shoot, sorry, do you know my phone's about to die. I don't understand.
You're loud and clear still. You're still doing good.
StreamYard.
All right. Well, let's kick off. I mean, have you got a view on the build?
Yes. Of feminism. Okay. I spoke a little bit earlier about like how there needs, we kind of had, we as women and men, but as women, we've kind of like drifted away from that. You know, when that era came and, you know, all of our men were like getting involved, like, you know, mass incarceration. They're being you know, the crack epidemic, and they're either on drugs or in jail or, you know, just getting involved, just not in the home, right? And then there is this system that's put in place to kind of provide services for the children and the women and children that are now in need, right? And I think that dynamic pushed the woman to be out of what her natural state is. You know, it's out of balance. You know, there at one point there was balance in the home, and the woman was pushed in a place of out of balance. So she's in a new role of being the end all be all. And so we do have these single women, but these single women not being able to like move over and allow there to be this other being there to have this space to create the balance. You know, so feminism is where they feel like they devalue men. We don't need men. I don't know. I don't understand these kind of women, because like I'm grateful to the creator for the man, especially the Black man. So I just can't relate to these women. They just they look at, I've read certain things, they look at motherhood as a burden. They're very resentful to men for like not being able to carry children. They're resentful to men for like, I just don't understand. I can't comprehend the mindset of these women that just look at men in disgust. And these are our counterparts.
Exactly, sis.
These are this is like our other half.
Exactly.
I just don't understand how they look at men. And then these are women, like imagine a woman who carries a boy child in her stomach. And you're just looking at him like he just what is he, a nothing? He's an object of oppression to a woman? No, like this, I just don't understand how these women look at men, but it's crazy. And I'm not one of them at all.
No.
Okay, so I'm gonna say, like, I feel like on the level of feminism, so I used to think I was a feminist, but as I've said before, I'm not affiliated with anyone. However, if we're looking at feminism, we're looking at the essentials of what feminism is. And all it means is for a woman, a female that is for female rights. It doesn't mean she's opposed to anyone, or it shouldn't mean she's opposed to anyone. It just means that she wants to either have equity or equality. That is what I understand. However, the reason why I cannot affiliate myself and why I cannot agree with feminism in the terms of how it's been switched and turned is because if we're looking at like from before the civil rights era, but let's just start with the civil rights era because there's before that. But for me, all it was is a situation of, it was about Black rights. It was about Black power and Black Panther and Black freedom and Black liberty and movements and all these kind of things. And they had to find a way to come between the Black man and the Black woman straight, right? So what they had to do is to separate all the rights that we have and we don't have. So for me, feminism became a thing of white women saying we want rights, flicking around their bras, getting excited, having festivals and doing what they want to do. At the same time, when they got their rights, Black women also were able to put themselves in that position of gaining certain civil rights along with them. However, those civil rights then separated them from the Black men. When you have feminism in the law, in especially America and the UK, what it does is it takes away from the Black man providing. So now he doesn't have to provide, because now you depend on the welfare state system. When you depend on the welfare state system, what they were doing at the same time is that they're taking away the Black man from the house. So they take him from the home. Yes, there are Black men that are whatless. Some of them don't care, but the majority of them did. So then they privatize and they put them to another slavery, which is prison. But they tell the Black women, you're not the same, your Black men are rubbish. Then they come out of prison. These feminists are like, these Black men have come out and they're not doing anything for us. And now they have to support themselves by hustling because of the laws that are against them. That's just a simple answer to my understanding of what I see feminism as. But on the other side of are we struggling and going through a hard time in 2020 or anything like that? Yeah, we are. Because as Black women, I'm still struggling in my classes with the Black men who are studying psychotherapy, I'm talking about racism, and they're talking about Black on Black violence, which is a thing, but it's not necessary. And then it becomes a thing as you're against me. I'm not arguing against men. I'm actually more for you Black men than you are. And also, it's actually a lot of the Black women like Assata Shakur, Angela Davis, Kathleen Cleaver, all of those women were and are feminist women. So what happens is the Black feminists and the white feminists are separate, but it's because of the cultures that we're in while we stay together because we benefit from one another. And all it is they just took the Black man away. So we're going through a hard time, but essentially Black women are going through a hard time and Black men are going through a hard time. And the system is against us. So either way, it's a hard time. So
let me answer people this on the panel, yeah. When it comes to because we're talking about feminism and males and females and the relationship side, based on the traumas that we suffered. And again, I've been in certain all Black manosphere type groups and all Black women type groups. But do we need each other to heal? Or do you think that the healing process needs to be done in separate groups? So men heal men, women heal women. Or do you think it's a collective joint healing that needs to happen simultaneously within our relationships?
I would have to say it's going to be collective. It's going to be a collective situation. You know what I'm saying? Ain't no use to each side huddling up and talk about, you're talking to the wrong person. So it's going to have to be a collective effort. For instance, my daughter, she called me the other day. She's married now. Called me the other day and said XYZ her husband. I said, don't call me. Call y'all. You and your husband work that out. You get what I'm saying? Y'all work that out and get it together. And about a week later, she said, hey, that, I asked, I said, how's it, with that situation, how did it go? Oh, we cool. So you got to talk. You're going to heal yourself. If you talk, get it right, get the ball rolling, but don't call me. Don't call me. Y'all talk it and work it out. As long as you don't put your hands on you, we good money. Yeah, we got to talk.
I think my instinctive thought from that was just straight off reaction was that the healing has got to come from within first. So everybody needs to individually realize their own situation and try and heal, and then the progression will be in the collective. And that was just an instinctive thought. Then we'll go together. So, but to what God Jacob was just saying, I think that when you said that it comes as a collective, but then you told her, so you are part of the collective, right? Not just she had the issue with her partner, So I think internally, and they did. See, they worked it out. So internally, between her, she found out what she had to go and say to him to realize or whatever, and then it worked out. And then, but firstly, she went to you. You know, I don't know if that, like people can understand what I'm saying, but individually, we need to recognize our issues, because to change any issue, you need to realize there's or to change the problem, you need to recognize the problem, the issue yourself.
Yeah.
Because the
I
change
hear
can
you.
come
I
from
hear you.
somebody else, you know, in
I hear you loud
behavior
and clear, King. I
situations.
just wanted to chime in and say, you know, as I said, I'll stick by the first technology of the African and the African diasporan is the family. Now, if we take a look at our indigenous cultures around the world, let's take a look at the Horn of Africa, Sudan, Ethiopia, etc. You see over here, if a young male, a teenager wants to date a teenage girl, he has to speak to her brother. Okay, the brother's got to sign him off and certify him, and then give him a pass. All right. In other cultures around the world, I don't remember which country in Africa, but in order to marry, the husband has to give dowry to his potential wife's family. The dowry that he has to collect is so vast that if they were to separate, he would pay his whole lifetime paying it back, because he's gonna have to pay it back. All right. That definitely can keep a family intact. And in that same culture, I remember it was on National Geographic. If two couples were in conflict, they didn't even have a say to start with as to the conflict. Families from both ends would have to have a conversation without them, then bring them in, and then the male will have to go to the wife's family, the female will have to go to the husband's family. Basically, they got to work it out because nobody wants to pay back that dowry. These are healthy support systems that we had in place. These things have been dissolved in modern times, you know. So it's about healthy systems. How are we going to rebuild a black family? Somehow we're going to have to rebuild healthy cultural systems of dating, of courtship, of support systems. I don't have the solutions as to how, but we do have the answers from what we used to do in the past.
I was just wondering, Konsu, do you feel like the woman has an opinion in this? Because I think I know the show that you're talking about. I think I actually watched that. It was like a series, I think. And so it's really weird. I agree with some of what you're saying, but some of it still feels like do women have a say in this? Because if they're gonna go and talk to one another, and then they're gonna decide everything, and then there's a dowry, are we saying that we're gonna have a new structure, or are we looking to kind of use that as a structure?
I'm saying that those are structures we can learn from. Obviously, we're in a different day and time, so some of those old traditional models may not be relevant to modern time. But the series you were talking about was like a Western sensationalized version of what I'm talking about, if I recall. The one I was talking about was of a specific village. It wasn't even a documentary. They were just following culturally how they do things. And what I'm saying, it wasn't the suppression of the woman in this instance. What it was is that the couple had to work it out with the whole family involved, the wise elders, etc. The mom, the auntie, the uncle, the brother had to be worked out. So what I'm saying is they were not left like we are in Western society, isolated to work out a conflict one-on-one, when sometimes it may take intervention from some other wise person with experience to just kind of give a rounded view of whatever conflict that is. And what I'm saying is we don't have those systems in modern society predominantly. So we just got to kind of figure it out ourselves. Sometimes it could be a car crash, and sometimes it can work out.
Well, this stresses the need for you to go into these situations with some sort of benchmark in your head, innit? Because once you step into the courting range and all of this again, if you haven't had any positive examples, this is again why the black family is important. If your first experiences of men, women, and watching people interact in that way is negative, and you've never been shown, then this is already where you're already floating in a place with no floor and no ceiling and no walls, because you don't have any comparisons to go with. This is why it's important to have an archetype in front of you for you to measure up to. This is where one feeds into the next generation. And again, you know, going this kind of taking the conversation kind of back to something we was talking earlier, and something I always say to people, because we're talking about legacy right now, facts. This is what the whole conversation is about. This is what black family gives you. And as I always say, if people was to be given £10 million and a £20 million business, suddenly it would matter who your sons and daughters are, and where they're educated, and who their friends are, and where they go, and what you will be. But again, because they've taken away our economic situation and we don't have general health, we're stuck in a mode where we're kind of not dealing with our future generations in that way. We're much more selfish because we're still trying to fulfill our own dreams in our own little time span. So once we get the kids to a certain age, we're kind of happy to push them out the door, whether they know stuff or not, and let them fend for themselves, so we can kind of claw back a little semblance of life or whatever we've been doing, rather than, you know, nurturing our kids right the way into early 20s, being there for them, making sure they finish education without the struggle of extra finances and that. We don't have those options. But again, those things would be supremely important if you start to add wealth in those basic ways. And I'll say that it's basic when we're talking about money. You know what I'm saying? That's the first level of wealth. When we're talking about knowledge and stuff, skills that you may impart to your kids, that's of a much higher value. But throw money into the mix, throw title into the mix, throw future industry into the mix, then suddenly these conversations again that we're asking ourselves, does it make sense, does it not, become 1, 2, 3. You know what I'm saying? Because there's the stakes become a lot higher then. Yeah, Melanated Goddess jumped on. Who's this? Is this EX? That's just jumped on. Yeah, what's good? What's good, brother? What you got something to add to the conversation?
Yeah, like with what the brother Kamsi was saying, right? Like a lot of it, yeah. Like I like it, yeah, but I think like before, right, we was like much more tribal, right? The choices was not available for us to just move or do whatever we want. I feel now with the children and even like myself growing up, like I don't feel like there's that much control where people can dictate like a decision like that. But saying that though, like being a parent, I do see the importance in being able to have some kind of family ecology where, you know, the parents get along with, or the whole family gets along with the person that is being incorporated into the family, or else it's just going to create some kind of division.
Yes, King. Yeah, I would say to that, I mean, we have to keep in mind, I mean, whether we like it or not, we are all very English or very American in our mindset. We can't deny it. We were raised in these countries, all right? So, you know, we still have taints of a Western mindset. But the instances I was talking about is not in the realms of dictatorship or forced decisions. It was more in the realm of a holistic cultural way of being, all right? Just like our children, sometimes the choices we make for them, they don't like them. And then when they're 20, 25, 30, they're like, yeah, I remember you told me to do that thing and I was vexed, but I get what you were saying. So it's more in terms of holistic cycles of a healthy culture. at the moment we have no culture. All right, we have what's the word I'm looking for? We have low culture. We are living in a time of low culture as opposed to high culture. High culture, we can use the models of Egypt, Timbuktu. We can go way back into high culture, but unfortunately, at the moment, we're in a state of low culture as a people, where anything goes. So there are no healthy support systems in terms of the Black family, and the buzzword at the moment is trauma. And the unhealthy systems we have are creating trauma in individuals, it's creating trauma in our children, and it's created fragmented trauma in our family. So, you know, somehow we got to work at a healthy system, you know, maybe based on the old model and bringing it back in a modern context.
Yeah, I totally agree with what you're saying, Konsu, as well, and bringing the old back to the new, and it's a kind of Sankofa, isn't it? Returning and what we knew and what we know. Totally. I must say, sorry, I just saw a comment as well about the dowry. So this isn't anything I say is never personal. It's just based on the whatever I've seen or known or my experiences. And I would say when it comes to dowries, I am 100% against it, except for unless it is, I think someone said earlier, which I agree with, is a collective agreement. So I feel like everything has to be collective. The individual has to have their own mindset, of course, and then collectively around that individual's opinion is where the collective comes into it. We yet again, in my humble opinion, and I don't know as much as most of the people, if not everyone on the panel, but I'll just say essentially, when we look at the past, it is literally just a blueprint. It's not for us to be basing it on that. It's supposed to look at the certain aspects of the blueprint that can work for us in the future moving forward. There are a lot of the things that we said, not to, you know, because we talked about feminism, and then when, maybe because my mindset was in that thing, and then when the dowry was brought up, I was like, hang on a minute. I was clearly thinking in the frame of a feminist, but I'm only joking. But what I'm saying is that legitimately there's certain things that I don't think work, because we've seen through a multitude of centuries for women, and actually for some men as well, that it doesn't work. But everything else I do agree with. But I still feel like it's about reclaiming some things and constructing some things. So it's not always about going back and it's about knowing our own thing. We have so many different families and people who have amazing, phenomenal mindsets, and they're working, they're living, and it's working.
I agree, and I have to whisper because if I wake the baby,
did someone say something?
Yes, it's Ultra.
Ultra.
Yeah.
Why are you whispering?
Because if I wake
Said he doesn't want to wake his baby.
Yeah, I can't wake the baby.
Yeah, you kind of sound, Ultra, you kind of sound super weird though. I mean, the sister was doing a phenomenal build. I absolutely agree totally with you, sister, in terms of taking you know, discarding the things that don't work and building up the things that do work. So continue to build, Queen, because I was really getting into that.
I think I was thrown off, so I'm going to stop talking now because I was. But thank you, Ultra, for whispering.
Ultra,
whisper
it out. Get
your
whispers
are fantastic, and we love them. Go on.
Let's hear what you gotta say, the Ultra.
Go on then.
Wait, sorry. No, I just wanted to say I agree with the sister. I don't agree with the dowry, and it's all fine and well that we look to ancient systems for inspiration. However, you have to. You can't just take them because they're ancient. You have to. Whatever you're doing has to be able to be applied today. There's no point doing something ancient and you live in a concrete jungle. It doesn't make sense. Okay, whatever you're doing has to be updated and modernized so that it's applicable today. The dowry is one of those things that should be left in the past. Okay, I'm kind of beat now.
Like, I don't know, man.
Thank you. What they call the Yin Yang twins? I felt like I was in the Yin Yang twins video. Like, you know, they go and they whisper.
That's so.
I feel like some of it is ancient, right? But like like some of it is like an assurance, right? Because say for example something happens to the male or whatever, right? Because generally the woman is the primary caregiver, right? And being a primary caregiver, it makes it more difficult to like sort out your economic situation. So if something happens to the guy, whether like, you know, they die or they leave, then there's gonna be like ramifications on the family. So like putting something in place beforehand, just in case that happens, I do see the sense in that.
Facts. I think that's one of the reasons why I'm not completely against the dowry. I'm against the dowry as if a man is paying a dowry and the family's like, oh, you have to marry this person. That's, to me, I'm against that. But if the family is saying that, you know, you all want to be married, and the family is basically using that as a sort of, like you said, Brother E, like an insurance. Like this is a physical demonstration of their ability to provide for you, you know, and you know, whether if it's land or if he buys a house and he puts the house in her name, so regardless of what, she owns property, or I don't know, something that if because you got to think, like in a lot of places they don't have life insurance, so to speak. You know what I mean? They don't have prenuptial agreements, and you know, just all of these different things that we have in the West. So these are ways in which they provide protection for this person who is not, as he said, the primary caregiver, the bread earner, and so forth. So I'm not completely against it. It's just more so if the dowry is a tool to force someone into marriage, then yes, I would be against that.
I just wanted to throw something out there, like in terms of like relationships today, male female relationships. What do you think that, like, I don't know, I find that we get into relationships too quickly and come out of them too quickly. You know, there's no courtship anymore. It's like we don't really spend enough time getting to know the other person, getting to know their family. And I think sometimes that's where we can fall into problems in terms of building a foundation.
Most definitely. I think that too. You're getting into situations with people that you have no idea of their family background. And again, it's a big point in getting to know what someone's about and where they've come from. And obviously you seeing how they interact with their family. And that's not to mean that everyone's going to be perfect with their family, but it's definitely a point in call. And with the dowry thing, I think again, what we're looking at with the dowry, there's a point in time when it's become a much more colder affair. But if I look at it and I try to examine the process of it, to me, again, the premise is that two families come together around two individuals that willingly want to be together in some way, shape, or form. But then there's a respect paid in an offering given. Now, whether or not that monetary side has become hard and fast or fixed in a certain way, or if you do this, now you're locked into this and that. Again, for me, the premise is of two families coming together, you understanding where your partner is coming from, the wider community aspect of it, and again, showing respect with an offering from one family to the next. And I would think, again, in its original format, that would be a mutual exchange because two families are becoming one. That's how you're looking at it. On that premise, to me, it works. But again, in the modern day situation, definitely we've cut out the dating, we've cut out any of the long thing, and obviously we use sex as the feeler to find out how somebody is. That's the biggest problem, that we most of the time in modern day society, you're encouraged to sleep with someone in order to get to know them. So straight away from that premise, there's always going to be an issue. And I'm not saying that you can't get to know people through sex or through physical acts or whatever you're doing, but understand you're taking a higher risk situation. You know what I'm saying? And as far as looking, after I say this, everyone else can jump back in. But as far as looking back in ancient times and in antiquity and all of that talk, I always just say this. Let's look at our most successful times in history and understand when we're building pyramids, doing whatever, busting slavery, whatever the period of time we're talking about, there had to be a basis for that black excellence to come out of. And always it was the black family being intact. You know what I'm saying? So that's the one part I will say. It doesn't matter how much time goes by or how little time goes by. If you truly want to see black excellence, then that's the highest form of success that you're going to get when it comes out of a proper constructed black family.
Yeah, that's right. And exactly. I mean, I would say.
Hold on. Wait. Before you say that, who was going to speak just then?
Oh, yeah, I was going to say something, but let him go through. I'll come after. So.
Wait, go on. Who was that? E.
Yeah,
go on. Say something because you're fresh.
Yeah, I was basically just saying that nowadays, isn't it? Like we got a consumerism mentality, even when it comes to relationships. Do you see what I'm saying? Like back in the days, something was broken, you fix it. But now something's broken, you just get a new thing and you dash the other thing to the side. Do you see it? So that's one of the issues we have when it comes to relationships these days.
Sorry, you can jump in now. I just wanted to hear what he had to say.
Yeah, I was just going to say, just on what he said, I was going to say a similar thing, but in the sense of as well, everyone's got like a whole load of pickings, isn't it? They're like, well, if they can just choose anyone and anyone now. It doesn't matter. Like, there's so many different cultures and colors and whatever, rainbows, and guys and women are just choosing if they don't like someone, isn't it? So it's easy to just not do what they want to do. So.
Yeah, well, that's right and exact. I mean, we spoke about courting, but remember, courting, if we look at courting from a Western concept, we might imagine 18th century noblemen and all that kind of nonsense. We're not talking about that. We're talking about courting in the form of a ritual, almost a spiritual ritual. All right? We're talking about high culture. No comparison to where we are right now, okay? And I mean, I want to use an example of that in terms of healthy systems of the black family. And I will take the success model of Asia, all right? So one of my best friends in high school, I remember, he got married to his childhood sweetheart, at our high school. And years later, I was the best man and whatnot. But before they both first of all, both their families invested in a property for them before they got married. All right, so that was set. Secondly, now you could say this is you could say it's dictatorship. You could put that word on it. Maybe coming from a Western mind, but coming from a holistic indigenous mind, he had to live in his wife to be's house with the family for some months, and she had to live in his house for some months, okay, before they got married. All right, just to get a sense of the dynamics of both families. And then they came together in a grand ceremony, which was invested in by both families, so we're still in the state of high culture versus low culture. We pretty much generally we don't have any of those systems in place in our community.
Yeah, do you know what I think one of the problems is now as well though? Yeah, like back in the days, right, the elders used to know better, but it's not necessarily the case anymore. Like being older doesn't like equate to knowing better automatically.
I think that's it. It's a collective thing again, like we were saying before. Like, you know, like you said, the elders don't always know, and the youngers don't always know. But a lot of the young people actually have a I don't know, way more imaginative and experience than even some of us had when we were younger. So, yeah, again, it's about coming together and understanding. And constantly, I'm not going against you at all. I'm just saying, when it comes down to kind of comparing ourselves to or looking at other cultures, we can't, because we're not of that. But that I'm just saying I don't believe that we can. So it's yet again looking at the constructs of what we're living in, how we're living, and how we can move forward, rather than kind of juxtaposing ourselves to other cultures.
I just think with young people now, the influences of like social media, the television, is very, very, very difficult for them to kind of grasp the concept of what like relationships really are. You know, you've got these programs like Love Island and The Bachelor, which is encouraging. It's encouraging them to just be hoes, basically. You know, and then with the influence of music videos and artists and stuff like that, how can we protect our children from that? How can we do that?
Yeah, I mean, I would also add to the bill, we also have the fragmentation of the generational gap. For example, it's, you know, I hear it a lot. I work with young people, they're totally in my world every day. And you know, I hear comments like the elders don't know everything and stuff like that, which is an opinion, but I teach rites of passage. In rites of passage is the bridge between the elders and the youngers. All right. The elders and the youngers will go in seclusion and build together as young men and men, as young women and women. With that fragmentation, we have a widening gap. The viewpoint of the youngins and the elders both have wisdom to exchange, but it's not being exchanged because there is a disregard for each another.
I just, you know, I work with young people as well, and like, I don't know, I'm flabbergasted by the disrespect that the females have for the males and the males have for the females, and it's scary. It is scary that, you know, they're the future, and it's just like, wow, you know, how are we going to turn this thing around? Because divine intervention is absolutely needed.
Yeah, I think
you know what,
one of the key things.
Give thanks, you know, for organizations like Manhood Academy, like Westside Young Leaders, like, you know, the Girls Academy, because those young people, you know, they're getting a different perspective, even if maybe their families are not doing great, but they're coming together as a collective and they're learning something new. Do you understand what I'm saying? And that's hope. That's hope right there, you know? So yeah, I give thanks, man, definitely.
Yeah, I mean, I'll just say one more comment to just round that off, Queen. And what I would say is, as one of the founders of Manhood Academy, I am not the teacher of the young people. Young people are teaching me. They're teaching me what they need. So we're not sitting on thrones saying this is what you should do and you should do this. More so, we're listening with non-judgmentalism, if that's a word, and they are teaching us what they need, which is a holistic cycle.
But you're also setting an example as well.
Right. Through modeling, yes.
Right. You know, and I think that is one of the most important things for our children is being that, or at least trying to be the best example that we can be within the household, you know, because at the end of the day, parents are the children's first teachers, you know, so this is where they learn about relationships, which is basically, we've just kind of gone full cycle, you know, with this conversation, you know, the children learn about relationships based on the household, you know.
Right. The parent is the first teacher. The school teacher is a secondary teacher in that order.
Right.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, I definitely agree.
I personally, I think with secondary school teachers, I don't think that they should not be allowed to teach children unless they've got children or they're over 30. That's my opinion. That's my opinion. Because there's too many of them that are like 22, 23, and you're teaching like 16-year-olds. No, you're too close to them in age. You're too close to them in emotional maturity. You understand? That's just, yeah. Anyway, yeah.
I think as parents, yeah, like we need to become like the influencers, right? Like instead of allowing external influences to be the influencers, like we need to, like be striving to be the influencers all the time, and being aware when we're not the influencers that is somebody else.
Yeah.
True. Yeah, I mean, I'll add to that with my children, I also teach my children my flaws. I'm not trying to be Mr. Perfect Parent. So, you know, I'm the first to apologize and break down if I've made a mistake, which is humility, you know. Maybe the older generation, my father would never apologize ever. I don't think I've ever heard him apologize ever. But, you know, we're in a different time. So how we raise the millennials is totally different to the old models at the same time.
Yeah. Agreed. And I think those are some of our cultural things that we should leave in the past, you know, that children should be seen and not heard. No, they're allowed to have an opinion, but as long as it's respectful, you know, what's wrong with that? Because unfortunately, I think with
there's a couple of things we should
I think with that, children should be seen and not heard. I think that's kind of done a disservice to our community, because, you know, especially when it comes to like sexual abuse and things like that, not being able to express yourself, and you understand what I'm saying? That's no.
Another thing I think we should get rid of is do as I say, not as I do.
Do as I say, not as I do.
Do you know what I'm saying? I heard that a couple of times growing up, and I never rated that.
But it doesn't even work, because children learn more from what you're showing them rather than what's coming out of your mouth.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I mean, some of those old models, you know, just don't work. We gotta take what works, build on it.
Definitely.
This is what I will say, about the quietness one. Obviously, having a relationship with your child to the level where they do talk to you, and you can obviously find out what's going on in their lives on a daily basis, is one thing. But to me, again, that original statement was more just from a place of know your place, in the sense that if there's big people, understand your relationship as a child to a group of adults.
Exactly.
Where again, in today's modern day society, I don't think there's that boundary in it. Kids just roll in, say what they want, chat to their mums and dads like it's a brethren thing. And again, that's a problem, because nobody knows their place. That's why, again, if a mum and dad can't tell a child something, how's the school supposed to be telling the youth anything? You know what I'm saying? Like, straight away, that's a problem. If your child has never had a restraint in the house, you're doing your child a disservice when you send them out there, because there's gonna, as I always say to my boys, listen, I love you. So when I'm talking to you or I'm cussing you or whatever, understand there's a underlining basic element of love always. But when you step outside of the house, no one don't love you, no one don't have to love you.
Right.
So if you don't understand that, and add that in your head when you're behaving and talking a certain way, this is where you're going to get into trouble, because things you may get away with me as your dad, you know, as somebody, again, quote unquote, who loves you and who cares for you, that thing ain't going to fly out there. So you have to be measured on what you're doing and how you're doing it. And again, if there's no boundaries ever set in the house, then it's going to be a lot harder for your child to understand that premise outside of the house as well. And again, this is where you can't blame your child then for acting a certain way.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? If your youth isn't recognizing no form of authority figure, this is something you've set up. Because at certain points, you know, I've got sons that are boisterous. They're all highly intelligent. They all like to argue and will construct a narrative if they're talking to a teacher or something. But at the same time, because there's a line that's drawn with them in the house, I can at least say to them, look, I hear you may feel like you're in the right when you're having these conversations with the teacher or whatever, but understand they're the authority figure. You're going to lose on that one. So stop talking, come a certain point, done the long thing. And they have to understand that, and they have to listen to that, because that's what it is in here. You know what I'm saying? And again, as an adult, I can be wrong. There's times I have to apologize to them for making certain decisions or maybe assuming certain things. But point being is, there's a point in time where me as the parent and them as the youth, they have to listen. You have to trust my judgment. You're under my care. I'm not under your care. You understand? And again, this is where too much these days is the friend thing. I want my youth to be a friend, and I want it, you know, in the attempt to have this relationship where your child speaks to you. The only way people seem to be able to do it is to be this completely free and easy, no rules. And then somehow you think, okay, by doing that, I might get better results. But as I always say, no spoiled child has ever come back to their mum and dad and said, yeah, you know what? Thanks for giving me everything. I've never heard of it. But I've heard of kids that get licks, kids that have been punished, kids that have strict parents. All of them types of kids always end up coming back and saying, you know what? Even if I know you was hard, and again, certain times you should have maybe tried to do things differently. I understand now why you did that. I get it. But I've never seen no spoiled you come back years later and say, thank you for giving me everything. It's never happened. Yeah, it's never happened in the history of the world. So for me, that's something that, you know, we got to start addressing. Definitely as parents, and especially because the age of parents seems to be younger now. This is more of a problem, because obviously there's more things you can naturally, you know, do with your child that maybe if you had your child later on in life, you wouldn't be in the mind state to even want to do. But because ages are closer, you know what I'm saying, and all this kind of behavior, as well as how society is formed, you have this ongoing issue where, again, the overall encouragement is to be a brethren rather than be a parent.
Yeah, Rich, I just want to say something very briefly, right? So we're talking about boundaries, and we're talking about being a bit too familiar, say, for example, with the oldest in our family. And as I said, that's the big bridge and divide that's happening in the moment with the oldest and youngest. It's all in the context of the Black family. So let me tell you this, right? I'm going to give you one example. A young man was brought to me and my team, okay, who decked his mother. Okay. A bit too familiar. No boundaries in place. How do you deal with that? You know what I'm saying? Oh, yeah, what? You can't, all of that, yeah? So what do? Well, we definitely healed the family, and it took some work. All right. And the second thing we did is we went and tracked down Dad, who had never been in his life since he was a baby. We found him and we brought him back to Dad, and our job was done. So what I'm saying in terms of being a bit too familiar and unhealthy boundaries, we're in dangerous territory. All right. That's something as a community we definitely got to keep in check.
I was going to say, yeah, I totally agree, Consu. It's that whole thing of, I don't know if someone said it, but familiarity breeds contempt, sorry. And yeah, but then again, it still goes back to the person, isn't it? It goes back to the individual as that mother or father. How were they connecting to their child? And how did the child get to that level of them thinking that? There are some kids who are, so to speak, out of control. But then also it sometimes it does go back to not just the lack of a father figure or a mother figure, but of the caregiver who's in the house. And how is that person coming across? I did miss most of this conversation when my camera's off, so maybe we already discussed that. But I'm just saying sometimes it is down to the parent as well and their interaction with them. And that, as you know about attachment theory as well, it goes into that whole caregiver activity as well and how society allows him. And sometimes as well, how that child, how that parent has allowed themselves to be treated by other people around that child who sees it as well. So, but I totally commend you for helping you in your the Manhood Academy and stuff like that, for helping the family to move forward. But not everyone has that, and it's such a bigger issue that we need to deal with as well.
No doubt.
I got a question. Yeah, like me personally, this is something that like I've recently started changing, right? But like, say when the difference between like boys and girls, right? Like, how do people address them differently in terms of raising them with like masculine and feminine energy?
Well, so say that last bit again, brother.
Raising boys and girls.
Like, basically, yeah, the differences between them. Like, because as a guy myself, right, sometimes like I'll be like more like promoting masculine traits or energy, like you want them to be more like competitive or even like more aggressive in certain situations, like, you know, where that's not necessarily go to. Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, in terms of I mean, we're shifting. I mean, we have to adapt to the times, and we are no longer in the era of the macho man, the hyper masculine male, for example. You know, how I train my boys in all the organizations that I contribute to is I guide them in towards being a balanced man. So being strong, being a provider, protector, and all those masculine attributes, but also having empathy, you know, also having a nurturing element, which is a balanced man. And it's the same with girls. You know, we have to teach our girls the same balances. We're no longer in the time of traditional models of masculine and feminine. So we have to adapt to the times in how we raise our children to survive and thrive in this concrete jungle.
Boy, I don't know about.
Say,
I don't know. That one sounded kind of. I don't know. This is what I will say. Yeah, it's a balance, but the whole perception of what power is, like, I think again, a lot of the time when us brothers, especially, are talking about power and what that is and what it is to be masculine, and as Consul was saying, the hyper masculine archetype type thing is kind of long gone, or not as it's not the best functioning model to be in, because again, you need that balance. So hyper masculinity isn't going to work, but it's that whole perception of what is power, what it is to be a powerful man. That's where, to me, that has to kind of be re-explained. And again, you know, for those who are into Black history, and when we talk about society being a matriarchal situation, you have to understand what that means. And again, that's where again we got to kind of look back at what our ancestors was talking about when they described this feminine and masculine energy and when it's appropriate and how it's expressed. Because I think in modern day society, I think it's become very twisted in how we express ourselves as males and as females, and what we all perceive as power versus aggression and versus manipulation, and you know what I'm saying, these kinds of ways. So I think there's a
When I
whole
say aggressive, though, sorry, bro.
Yeah.
I mean, like, say for example, she's like at school or something, and someone does something to her. Like, if it's a boy, I'll just be like, "Oh, boom!" Just punch them back in the face. Like, do you see what I'm saying? But as a girl, she's like much more like, okay, I see masculine as more direct, right? Like a ship, right, trying to go somewhere, and feminine more like the ocean, which is much more free flowing. If you get what I'm saying. So, like, I feel like there's a difference between masculine and feminine energy. So, how does one go about nurturing them instead of treating them the same?
They're not
Is
the same.
it a possibility though that because what we're doing again is separating masculine and feminine have to come together, and all they are is a balance, in my opinion. Again, they're a balance that creates a harmony, right? So it's not that a guy has to be masculine and a woman has to be feminine. The European or the westernized civilization has taught us, or whatever they want to call it, all this infrastructure of Western civilization has taught us that masculine is male and feminine is female. But really, we're actually all together. I have masculine traits, I have feminine traits, and you have the same as well. It's just about understanding the differences, and it's about aligning ourselves with understanding masculine and feminine, and more about an energy, in my opinion. And it's
But would
about
you
what
say
you
you're
feel
more
within it.
dominant in one than the other, or equal?
No, I'm not. Like I can be like so if for example something happened at work, they could say to me, "Oh, you're being aggressive," but I'm not being aggressive. I'm just being assertive. But they don't want me to be. Then another person in that room could say to me, when I've changed how I am, "Oh, you're being really feminine." But it's not. But feminine doesn't mean being soft, because we're all warriors. When we think about masculine and feminine, we need to look at it as Black people and Black mindedness. And as Black people, we need to have both of them, because we are balance and harmony. So masculine can also be the side that is somebody that confronts, but also somebody that knows how to take down a situation. A woman can look to a man and he can look to her. And if they're in an argument, it could shift, not because she's female, but because in her feminine ability and the respect that she has for him, she then changes her stance and understands and listens to him more. In this society, it changes. So you've got then you have the beta and the alpha. And the alpha male can be perceived as a beta until something happens, like literally shit hits the fan. And then he's like whatever, dominant. But as a beta man, it's that whole thing of looking weak again. But it's not that he's weak. He hasn't tapped into his alpha state. So I guess what I'm saying is it's more to do with a balance rather than separating it and looking at it as male and female, masculine and feminine. So we need to have those energies together. Hence why technically we do need to have the male and feminine as a dominance in our life as caregivers. But if we don't have that, we need to have it within our family around us, whether it's our uncles, our aunties, our sisters, and whatever. But yet again, we have to understand where we're coming from, because everything is based on Western civilization right now. Even if you're from Jamaica or if you're from Africa, it's all based on the colonialized system. So it's a hard one. It's a hard one to do.
Just to base it on a clearer note on that, it is to actually understand it. It's just one pole. Mm-hmm. You know, the feminine and masculine energy, it's just got two sides to a pole. What the Europeans have done is broke the pole into two. Understanding that it's like a form of a frequency. It goes from one end to the other. Mm-hmm. So understanding that feminine and masculine energy, it's what you see is that the feminine energy takes in, the masculine energy pushes out. So when you have them two together, you have a plus and a minus. And that plus and a minus, when you put it into a socket, it produces electricity. When you have a male and female persons, then you will find out that you have a child. So you need both of them to be successful. If you separate one or the other, they'd be dysfunctional where there is no balance. So that means the pole is snapped into two.
Yeah, but like balance doesn't mean equal, right?
No,
like you can be balanced but dominant in one area. Like, so when I say that, right, like certain, like I don't feel like when you talk to some sisters, they don't receive, you can't talk to them the same way you talk to some brothers, right? Like you switch up how you're talking in it because they're gonna receive it differently. Do you get what I'm saying? Like the way I would criticize my missus is not the same way I would criticize my brethren, because I know the way that they process information is different.
Yeah, but it's like having hot or cold water. It's still water.
Yeah, but you're gonna you're gonna use it differently.
So to having your balance, it has to be lukewarm.
I suppose, are you saying like, it's like, like I was having a conversation with my friend earlier, and I always say about logical and emotional. So like when you're dealing with a woman, she can be way more emotional in her answers, her responses or whatever, but then you're dealing with a guy and it's more logical. Obviously, I'm quite between both of them, but I recognize that sometimes my friends who are female are very emotional, and sometimes my male friends are very logical. Is that what you mean? Like when you talk to a woman, if you talk to your friends, you can say it on a level, but if you come with the same talk to a woman, you've got to kind of change the positioning. Is that what you mean?
And like that's one instance. Or like if I'm criticizing the brethren, I can be much more direct with what, like, not in all cases, right? It's not like a black and white way of seeing it, but like some of them I can be like harsher in my criticism, where with a female I'll more like form it in a way that is praising, kind of like praising what I want to see, where a guy will respond like better to me saying, right, that was dead. Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah, I do I do get what you mean.
But then you would, the same way you approach, there is a female like you that can do the same approach.
Yeah, most definitely. But like,
the same way in the feminine side is the same way another man could do the same way in the feminine way.
And if it was a feminine guy, do you get what I'm saying? But I think generally, like it's the exception for the male to be feminine and for the female to be like dominant.
Yeah, no, I do agree with you in the sense of like, if someone, like if you're going to approach me in a certain way, it's weird because I do. Okay, so I'm not going back on what I said because I agree with that, but I get what you mean. So when you're having like a direct conversation, you can be more direct with the male than you can be with the woman, because I've been in that position where I say to someone, well, you can talk to your boys like that, but don't talk to me like that, that kind of thing. So it's just about the way that you come across. So I guess, but in a way, it's just being sympathizing or empathetic towards the person you're speaking to. So it's not really a feminine masculine thing in the sense of feminine masculine. It's just a way of communication towards a woman. But we all have to. So when we talk about feminine masculine, that is, like Terry said, it's a pole and it's just being separated. But when we're talking about the communication in a sense of like, how do I go to my woman? Because you have that to your woman, you have that relationship with her and that bond with her in that loving way, then she will expect you to speak differently than if you were just friends or if she just met you. But your boys, it doesn't matter what relationship you have, you can just come to them in any way.
Well, let me say this as well, E. If you're talking to your friend, let's leave the wife thing, go to the friend thing. There's still going to be aspects of that conversation where you're going to have to exhibit both energies. Because if they're your friend, you may logically speak to him and break down what you're trying to say to him as a male. Because as you said, he'll receive that. But then as your friend, you're going to exhibit the female energy in nurturing and doubling down on what you're saying within the same conversation. So again, you'll be using these energies at appropriate moments, but again, it will be running simultaneous within the same conversation that you're having. You'll need those elements within all those conversations you're having. You know what I'm saying? Like it's a natural thing that has to run. So I just think you're going to use it appropriately depending on what your situation is and what you're doing and what you're saying. But again, you will find really you're using both majority of the time. It's just whether or not you recognize that.
Yeah, like I definitely find that I use like both, but much more dominant with the male, right? And I find like guys, like, well, most of my brethrens, like I don't know if there's any that like they're male dominant, masculine dominant, right? Like, but see, when I'm talking to a guy that has had issues with their father figure, right, or the epitome of masculine energy for them growing up, then they're unable to take harsh criticism or what it would be considered harsh criticisms. Do you understand? And they need much more like what they would consider nurturing is what I would consider softer. Do you see what I'm saying? Where one of my next brothers, I could just be raw, straight with it, and that would nurture him.
Well, again, look, I would say this again, like a balance. Everybody,
but that still sounds that sounds more like a trauma base.
Like trauma, yeah, I think it is a trauma, but it's also like he's been unable to maybe charge like the masculine side of himself through like that lack of growing up with that man figure in his life.
I don't really think it's more of a lack of a male figure, although that plays a part, but it's more a lack of being able to self-express himself, even around male figures that he's met, whether it's friends or not. So then eventually it's a kind of breakdown where now you're sensitive to everything or whatever the situation is. That kind of happens when you don't have a balance again.
Yeah, I would say, I mean, it's got to do with social skills, you know, and being bilingual in terms of knowing how to communicate with a feminine energy or a masculine energy, which is not really down to gender. I mean, remember, we're dealing with left brain Western thinking. And there is no such thing as male v female. That's battle of the sexes that was kickstarted in the 1960s. Really, what we're talking about in terms of the Black family is gender harmonics, gender harmony. And masculine and feminine in harmony is perfect equilibrium, is perfect balance. And that is the true power of you know, what we need in order to heal the Black family. Really, it's about gender harmony. And that's really what is needed to raise the Black family in a healthy environment into the future. That's all we got to work out.
Like, I'm with you, yeah, like in the sense that to me, it's like all about equality in terms of like, and when I say equality, it doesn't mean things being the same, right? Like in between the man and the woman, right? Like, to me, like my miss is as important as me in a relationship or whatever, yeah. But then partly what you're saying is like when somebody says to me they don't see color. Do you get what I'm saying? It's like really though.
It's kind of like they're they're putting it to the side, like it's not really happening or it's not there.
Yeah, like there's no difference, kind of thing.
Yeah, do you know what? It sounds weird, but I think like because of the society that we're in and because of the discussion we're having, really and truly, they've done a big number on us. You know that what they've done is that they have totally effed us up. So we are so confused in what is masculine, feminine, what is male, female. You know, this whole Venus and Mars, male. You know, like technically we're just people. And so so even if you can't talk to your friend, for example, because you feel like he's sensitive, sometimes it could even be, what is it within you that can't deal with the friend that's being sensitive? What is it about his sensitivity? Because maybe he needs that support, but then you can't give it because you're in the masculine energy or the masculine side of what you're saying. And so it's a hard thing. It's a hard thing. But
no,
what you're saying is totally legitimate. Oh no, I'm not saying
you can't. To me, it's not an issue, but he's unable to receive me unless I talk in the same kind of way that I would talk mainly to a female. Yeah, and I don't have an issue with that. I've got a message, right? So like being able to talk to a female in that that capacity is
Yeah.
like it's normal for me.
Yeah.
But I just understand that there's a difference.
Yeah, there is a difference, but his situation and his trauma or whatever I don't even like the word trauma actually. His situation and what he's going through isn't necessarily anything to do with masculine or feminine or male or female. It could just be that he's just going through a hard time, and that's how he deals with things because he didn't have that side of life that maybe you experienced, or you didn't, but you just adjust yourself differently, if you get what I mean. But because we're living in a male and masculine society, it's hard to kind of break through that barrier and see that it's more like he's just being sensitive or he's being whatever, you know? Or maybe not. I don't know.
I mean, a lot of the boys that I work with are highly emotional, highly emotional. Some of that is post-traumatic stress. In my humble opinion, as a psychotherapist, I believe that we have a large number of undetected post-traumatic stress. And I'm not just talking about your boy getting stabbed in front of you. I'm just talking about maybe bullying in school that maybe you never told your parents about, or a teacher dropping something on you that you just brushed aside but really impacted you, you know? So in my opinion, there's a lot of post-traumatic stress going on in high numbers with our young people and with our boys. I mean, that's why in conflict, I mean, we teach there is a range of emotions you can use to express anger, for example. Anger doesn't necessarily have to be violence and a knife. You can communicate anger in a way where you articulate yourself and the person knows you're not happy without it having to resort to violence. But what I find I'm having to do with a lot of the boys and the girls I work with is teach them social skills in order to articulate themselves so that they do not become super sensitive when they hear something they don't like, you know, and it's a process.
Listen, people, this has been a really good build today. We've had a lot of decent people come on and drop some opinions. We've had the chat room firing. Big up to everybody in there that's been contributing and putting in their worth. We're coming up to the 3-hour mark, so I'm going to be cutting it now at this point. But before we do, I want to allow everybody who's contributed to say their final piece, anything they want to say before we check out on a quick one. So yeah, Sunray, say what you guys say, speak to the people before we sign off. What do you have to say, my brother?
Man, just same old. Just much pleasure being here. It's always really, you know, great environment, great vibes. We're really learning off each other. This stream especially, fire. You know, I just hope everybody stays well, stays blessed, was able to gain something from this, and then yeah, tell your friends about this stuff and build this channel. That's all. Much peace and props. Stay true. Love from Australia.
That's all. E.
Yeah, man, big show. Like I missed some of it, but yeah, man, Black Eyes TV was putting in that work. Like the show. When the show's done, try and leave a comment. Helps with the engagement. Yeah, man, big up.
Most definitely, brother, and I hope you come back and join us again. Yeah, much appreciated. Coach Carla, what's good? That's so cool.
I wasn't expecting that one. I would just say, guys, that yeah, it's been a really great time actually talking, and it's really interesting that the input and the output as well. I'd actually like to talk to you on a separate level though, just to get a bit more understanding and knowledge of what we've discussed and more as well. Konsu, thank you, you're amazing, and we're gonna have to talk as well. But I would say, yeah, like this is great. These conversations are what we need, and this is the only way that we have to understand whether or not we totally gain understanding in the conversation we're having right now. But it's a conversation that's necessary to have, and I think it's a great start, and we're moving forward in Black family first. Thank you.
No doubt. That's all. Konsu, Professor.
Yes, King. Yes, Queen. Love the bill. Love the bill. And you know what I like about these kind of bills? I don't want to agree with everyone all the time. I want challenge and balance, and that's healthy. In fact, that is a form of raising the black family, challenging and balancing in harmony. You know, I just want to say, Sun Ray, if he's still there, can you drop your number in the chat, King? Is he still there?
Yeah, brother. Yeah, I'll put
Can
my
you drop your
email
number
in
in the
there.
chat if you don't mind?
Yeah,
Private.
you can talk after the show.
Oh yeah, we could build after the show. All right. So my final statement is, I would say, male and female in harmony is perfect equilibrium, and gender harmony is the true power in raising the black family. Peace out.
No doubt. Rigsy, speak to them, Jim. Speak to the black family. That's all.
You know what it's all about. Before we even head out, we've got a long week. So I'm just gonna say we're gonna be going on certain different topics. Tomorrow, we've got someone from the United States. Tomorrow, one of the big guns in the educational system. You know, who's done books on Malcolm X. He's done things on the riots. He's done all kinds of stuff. Then on Thursday, we have Total Exposure. We've got some fantastic artists coming in the house. You know, on Friday and Saturday, we've got the big guns in the house. We've got the NOI top European top gun for Friday and Saturday. And we've got a secret speech coming on live on the Saturday. So on that Friday, 9 o'clock, and then on the Saturday, 4 p.m., we've got a massive speech. So we'll be starting from 3:30 to onwards. So, as I said, today was a big build. And I say to everyone, take out your phones, hashtag BFF, Black Family First. As I always say, buy black, be black, live black, enjoy black, smile black, just go into your inner blackness. So, Richie, you give your final word and share that screen.
Yes, people. Big up again to everybody that's joined us today for making this segment interesting, accessible, lovely, live. Appreciate everyone. Join us again next week, Tuesday, for another True Talk segment. Again, we'll be having people on, say their piece, speak your speak. Black family first, always. Without it, none of you blood clot people don't exist out here. Yeah, so remember, legacy. Peace.